Hey guys, tonight we're going to get a little grimy. We're about to take a slow, meandering journey back in time, not to a grand palace or a philosopher's academy, but to the damp, smoky, and frankly quite smelly world of the Viking Age. Specifically, we're going to trail one of its most feared and mythologized figures, the Berserker. But forget the glorious, shiny, battle-axe-swinging heroes from television, or peeling back the layers of legend to find the very real, very unjade gif in a human underneath. You'll want to take a deep breath of fresh air before we begin. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support is what keeps these late-night historical dives going, and once you've done that, maybe drop me a comment letting me know what city you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always a quiet thrill to think about this story, echoing out across so many different places and time zones. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's get one thing straight right away. The idea that all Vikings were just filthy barbarians wading through muck is, for the most part, a convenient piece of propaganda written by the very people they were raiding. The reality, at least for the average Norseman or woman, was surprisingly clean for the era. Anyway, right now, you're not the wild-eyed warrior. Not yet. You're just you, living in a reasonably prosperous settlement somewhere on the coast of Norway. The morning light is filtering through the smoke hole in the roof of the longhouse, illuminating dancing dust motes. You can smell the lingering wood smoke from last night's fire, the scent of dried herbs hanging from the rafters, and the faint, salty tang of the sea on the breeze. It's not an unpleasant smell. It's the smell of home. You sit up on your sleeping bench, the rust-spun wool of your blankets scratching faintly against your skin. You run a hand through your hair, and it's messy. Sure, but it's not a matted wreck. Your first instinct isn't to grab a weapon, but to reach for a small, carved object lying beside your bed. It's a comb, made from the antler of a deer. Its teeth are fine and surprisingly even. You slowly, methodically, begin to work it through your hair. Around you, others are doing the same. Grooming is a ritual here, a small, daily act of order in a world that can often feel chaotic. Archaeologists, centuries from now, will find thousands of these combs in Viking graves. They'll also find tweezers, small ear spoons for cleaning wax, and other little grooming tools. It paints a picture not of savagery, but of personal pride. You take pride in your appearance. Your beard, if you have one, is likely well kept, perhaps even intricately braided. Some of the more flamboyant warriors, even bleach their hair and beards blonde with a harsh lye soap, a striking look that announces their presence from a distance. And then there's Saturday. In your language, you call it Laugardaji. You are literally washing day. It's a weekly institution. The whole community seems to exhale in a collective, steamy sigh. Fires are built, large cauldrons of water are heated, and people take turns to wash away the week's grime. You might use a harsh soap made from animal fat and dash, which stings the eyes but gets the job done. To emerge from the steam, wrapped in clean linen or wool, is a feeling of renewal, of being civilized. You've heard tales from traders and raiders returning from the lands to the west. From England, they bring back amusing stories. The English monks, they say, write disapprovingly of the Norsemen, not just because of the raiding, but because you and your kind are apparently too clean. They complain that these well-groomed, pleasant-smelling Danes and Norsemen are far too popular with the local Anglo-Saxon women. It's a source of quiet, smug amusement around the fire. But why all this effort? Is it just vanity? Is it simply about feeling good? The truth is probably a mix of things, and it's a question that historians still debate. For some, cleanliness is tied to health. Keeping clean keeps sickness at bay. For others, it's a clear social signal, A well-kept appearance shows you are a free person of some standing, not a thrall or a slave who has no time or right to personal care. Then for many, there's a deeper, almost spiritual layer. A clean body is a fitting vessel for a strong spirit, a way of honoring yourself and the gods. The exact weight of each of these reasons, social, practical, or spiritual, is something that scholars still argue over. So here you are, in this world of surprising order and hygiene. You are clean, you are groomed, you value the simple comfort of a washed tunic against your skin. But as the day winds down and the fire in the center of the longhouse is built up high, the stories begin, and not all of them are about heroic deeds or profitable trade. Some are whispered. They are stories of men who live at the edge of your society, men who don't seem to care for combs or bath days, men who embrace the wild, who quote a terrifying, trance-like fury. They are called Berserkers, the bare shirts, and as you listen, a strange, unsettling curiosity begins to stir within you. You look at your clean hands, your neat braids, and for the first time, you wonder what it would be like to let it all go. The embers of the fire pop and hiss, sending a cascade of glowing sparks drifting up towards the smoke hole in the roof. The communal warmth of the longhouse wraps around you like a heavy blanket. The day's work is done. Bellies are full, and now is the time for stories. The storyteller tonight is an old man named Bjorn. His face is a roadmap of past battles, a deep scar cutting from his brow to his jaw, his eyes holding the kind of weary depth that has seen too much. He is not a scout, a poet who reads grand epics. He is a warrior, and his stories are blunter, more visceral. He leans forward, the firelight catching the silver in his braided beard. He doesn't raise his voice, he lowers it, forcing everyone to lean in, to strain to hear over the crackling flames. And he begins to speak of the Ulf he N.A.R. the Berserkir, the wolf coats and the bear shirts. As he talks, you notice a shift in the room. The easy camaraderie fades, replaced by a tense, focused silence. Even the children, usually fidgeting, are still. Bjorn isn't talking about the heroes you all know, the cunning Jura-Ellis, or the brave shield maidens. He's talking about something different, something that doesn't quite fit. He describes men who fight without armor, their chests bare to the enemy's steel. Instead, they wear the raw, unt and hides of wolves or bears, the heads of the beasts often pulled over their own like a grotesque hood. You try to imagine it not a finely crafted cloak, but a stiff, heavy, greasy pelt, still smelling of the wild animal it came from, a second skin, as he calls it. Bjorn's voice is a low rumble as he describes their arrival on the battlefield. They don't march in a shield wall, the disciplined backbone of any Viking force. They come on the flanks, or sometimes even ahead of the main line, loping, howling like beasts. He says the sound they make is not human. It's a chilling, guttural roar that seems to come from the very earth. They tremble and foam at the mouth, their eyes wide and vacant, seeing nothing but the reed mist of battle. And then comes the detail that makes a shiver run down your spine. He talks about them biting the iron rims of their own shields, chewing on the metal in a frenzy of anticipation, the grinding sound carrying across the field, an act of pure, unhinged aggression. When the clash comes, they are unstoppable. They feel no pain from sword cuts or spear thrusts. They simply continue their rampage, possessed by a force that no one can quite name. The old warrior, Bjorn, holds up a hand, showing fingers gnarled by age and old wounds. I saw a man, a berserker, take a spear to the gut. He simply snapped the shaft, laughed, and kept fighting. He only fell hours later, long after the battle was won, as if his body had just forgotten to die on time. This state, this terrifying battle fury, is called the Berserkergang. The word hangs in the smoky air of the longhouse, heavy with meaning. And this is where the real mystery lies, a point that even the sagas and scholars can never truly settle. What is its source? Bjorn, in his simple, direct way, outlines the very debate that historians will have centuries later. Some say it is a gift, he murmurs, a madness sent by Odin, the All-Father, who is himself a god of ecstasy and fury. These men are his chosen champions. Touched by the divine, he pauses, looking into the fire. Others whisper of darker things. They say these men form their own brotherhoods, secret cults in the deep woods. They perform rituals we know nothing of, perhaps consuming strange, spotted mushrooms that grow in the damp shadows, or drinking brews that steal a man's wits and replace them with a beast's spirit. No one really knows for sure. Was it religious ecstasy, a self-induced hypnotic trance? Was it the result of ingesting hallucinogens like fly agaric mushrooms? Or was it, as some more cynical minds might suggest, the terrifying and incredibly effective form of psychological warfare, a performance of madness to break the enemy's morale before the first shield was even splintered? The argument hangs there, unanswered, as it has for generations. Bjorn continues, speaking of how these men are set apart. They don't belong to a family or a jarl in the same way other warriors do. They belong to their own pack. They are a brotherhood of the wild, sworn only to each other and their animalistic spirits. When not at war, they are often outcasts, living on the fringes, their volatile tempers and unnerving presence making them poor company in a tight-knit community that values order and predictability. They are useful monsters, to be unleashed upon one's enemies, but monsters nonetheless. The story ends. Bjorn leans back, the tale having taken something out of him. The spell over the longhouse is broken. People begin to talk again, but in hushed tones. They are preparing their sleeping benches for the night. Soon, the only sounds are the crackling fire and the gentle breathing of a hall full of people. But you are not sleeping. You lie on your bed, staring up into the darkness where the roof should be. The comfort you felt this morning in your clean clothes, with your neat comb, now feels thin, brittle. It feels like a cage you hadn't realized you were in. Your nest story hasn't just scared you. It has ignited something. The image of the berserker bound, unkempt, feared, and utterly free from the rules that govern your life is burned into your mind. You can almost feel the phantom weight of a damp, heavy bearskin on your shoulders. You can almost taste the metallic tang of a shield rim between your teeth. The monster in the bearskin is no longer just a legend told by an old man. It has become an idea, a possibility, a dark and thrilling path that, for the first time, you feel a desperate urge to walk. The weeks that follow are filled with a quiet, gnawing restlessness. The familiar rhythms of your life, the mending of nets, the sharpening of tools, the communal storytelling now feel like a dull hum in the background of a much louder, more urgent calling. The story of the Berserker hasn't faded. It has taken root. You find yourself watching the other warriors, the disciplined men who train with the shield wall, and you feel a sense of detachment. Their world of order and formation seems fragile, while the wild chaos of the Berserkergang feels like a fundamental truth you've only just discovered. Your journey begins not with a grand declaration, but with a series of small, deliberate severances. You start to seek out the fringes, both literally and socially. You spend less time in the bustling center of the longhouse and more time near the shadowed edges, listening more than you speak. You find yourself drawn to the deep woods that border your settlement, a place you were once taught to be wary of. The familiar, well-trodden paths no longer interest you. You push through tangled undergrowth, feeling the sharp sting of branches on your skin, the suck of mud at your boots. The forest smells different out here. Away from the wood smoke of the village, it smells of damp earth, decaying leaves, and wild things. You are trying to get used to it. You are trying to make it your own. One day, an opportunity presents itself. A small war band is being formed, not for a grand raid overseas, but for a more personal, brutal conflict, a blood feud with a rival clan a few valleys over. This is not the kind of warfare that promises wealth and glory. This is the kind that promises scars and grudges. It's a dirty, vicious business, and it attracts a certain type of fighter. Among the volunteers, You see them, two men who stand apart from the others. They are larger, unkempt, and carry an aura of quiet menace. They don't wear the chainmail or decorated helmets of the other high-status warriors. They wear simple leather and furs, and they watch everyone with a flat, unsettling gaze. They are, you realize with a jolt, the real thing. You approach them. Your heart is pounding, a frantic drum against your ribs. This is the moment of commitment. You don't offer your services in the normal way, boasting of your strength or loyalty. You say little. You simply stand before them, trying to project an air of stillness, of contained violence, that you have been practicing in your mind. You try to let your eyes do the talking, to show them that you understand the darkness they inhabit, and that you are not afraid of it. One of them, a man with a tangled red beard and teeth, stained from what you hope is just chewing tobacco, looks you up and down. He grunts, a sound that is more animal than human. You think you can run with us? Boy, he asks, his voice a gravelly rasp. This isn't a game. We don't stand in a line and clang our shields. We are the ones who break the line. You simply nod. Words feel inadequate. Hello. The other man, older and scarred, circles you slowly, like a wolf inspecting a new member of the pack. He sniffs the air around you. It's an unnerving, primal gesture. He seems to be smelling your intent, your fear. You're too clean, he says, his voice surprisingly soft. You smell of soap and home. The beast spirit doesn't like that smell. This is the first test. This is the crossroads. In this moment, the entire trajectory of your life balances on a knife's edge. To become one of them, you must shed what you were. You must leave behind the boy with the antler comb and the neatly braided hair. You must turn your back on Laugarda G you are, the comforting ritual of washing day. You are choosing a new path, a one-way road into a wilder, grim our existence. Why would you, or anyone, make such a choice? This is a question that fascinates modern psychologists and historians. The sagas often portray berserkers as elite shock troops, bodyguards to kings, suggesting a path to high status. But there's a darker interpretation. Perhaps this path isn't a choice made from strength, but from desperation, for individuals who felt marginalized, who didn't fit into the rigid social structures of Viking society. Becoming a berserker could have been a radical act of empowerment. It was a way to become feared rather than ignored, to command respect through terror if not through traditional merit. Scholars still debate whether the path of the berserker was a prestigious career choice for the elite or a desperate refuge for the outcasts and the mentally unstable. Looking at the two men before you, it's hard to see them as prestigious. They look hard, damaged, and lonely, but they also possess a terrifying self-sufficiency. They are their own law. You understand the unspoken bargain. To join them is to join a world where your weapon is not just the axe in your hand, but the fear you inspire. And that fear is cultivated through a complete rejection of the norms that hold your society together. It is a commitment to become something other, something less than human in the eyes of many. But perhaps, you hope, something more. You meet the older man's gaze and give a slow, deliberate shake of your head. You understand. The soap and the home you are leaving them behind. You take the comb from a small pouch at your belt. The same antler comb you've used every morning for years. You look at it for a long moment, this symbol of your old life. Then, without ceremony, you toss it into the undergrowth. The older man watches it disappear, and a slow, grim smile spreads across his face. It's not a welcoming smile. It's a smile of recognition. You have taken the first step. You are on the path now. There is no turning back. Your transformation doesn't begin with a blood oath or a secret ceremony in a moonlit clearing. It begins with something far more mundane and far more profound. You stop washing. It sounds simple, trivial, even, but in the context of your life, it's a rebellion. The first Saturday, the first Laugarda G, You are that you deliberately refuse to join the others by the heated cauldrons is a declaration. As the rest of your kin move towards the steam and the scent of lye soap, you turn and walk the other way. You feel their eyes on your back. It's a mixture of confusion, disapproval, and perhaps a little bit of fear. You are breaking a fundamental rule, not one written in law, but one woven into the very fabric of your culture. You are choosing to be unclean. The first few days are just uncomfortable. You feel a layer of sweat and grime on your skin that you desperately want to scrub away. Your hair starts to feel heavy and greasy. You are acutely aware of your own smell, a faint but growing soreness that makes you self-conscious. You see people subtly shift away from you when you're in the enclosed space of the long house. The change is isolating. Your new mentors, the two grizzled berserkers, notice. They don't praise you, they simply acknowledge your commitment with a silent nod. They are teaching you, through their own example, that this discomfort is the point. The filth is a tool. It's a wall you are building between your old self and the new one you are trying to become. As the days turn into a week, then too, the physical sensations change. The initial itchiness gives way to a dull, constant feeling of being coated. Your skin, no longer protected by its natural oils which have been stripped by harsh soap, starts to overcompensate. It becomes a greasy, unwelcoming habitat. Your clothes, woven from coarse woolen linen, are no longer just garments. They become a second skin, absorbing every drop of sweat, every smear of dirt, every bit of grease from the smoky fires and half-cooked meals. They are never truly dry, clinging to you with a perpetual, clammy dampness. This ritualistic abandonment of hygiene is something historians have theorized as a key part of the Berserker initiation. It wasn't just a byproduct of a hard life on the campaign trail, it was a deliberate spiritual and psychological tool. By embracing filth, an aspiring berserker was symbolically rejecting the structured, tamed world of the community. It was a physical manifestation of their outlaw status. You are literally making yourself offensive to be around, forcing a separation that is essential for the transformation. You cannot be a monster on the battlefield and a friendly neighbor at home. The two are incompatible. You must choose. The fascinating, if slightly disgusting, side note from this era is the Viking understanding of health. While they valued cleanliness, their concept of disease was very different from ours. Sickness was often thought to be caused by ill will, curses, or tiny, invisible poison worms called fjord worms. While they might not have understood germ theory, there was perhaps an intuitive understanding that cleanliness and health were linked. By willingly abandoning this, you are, in a sense, tempting fate. You are showing contempt for the invisible forces that govern health and sickness. Another act of hubris that defines the berserker's path. As you sit by the fire one evening, you scratch at a persistent itch on your scalp. You pull your fingers away and see a tiny, dark speck, a louse, your first one, a wave of revulsion, a memory of your mother painstakingly combing your hair as a child to keep you free of them, washes over you. You are about to crush it, an instinctive act of disgust. But then you stop. You look over at your mentors. They are slouched, unmoving, seemingly at peace in their own unwashed state. This is part of it. You realize you are becoming a habitat, a walking ecosystem of grime. To kill the louse would be to fight against the very state you are trying to achieve. You let it go. It's a small, stomach-churning moment of surrender, but it's a significant one. You are accepting the filth not just as an outer layer, but as a part of you. The smell is the hardest part. It's a complex, evolving bouquet. At first, it's just the sour tang of stale sweat. Then, it deepens, mingling with the ever-present wood smoke that clings to your hair and clothes. It's the smell of the oils in your skin beginning to go rancid. It's the faint, earthy scent of the dirt you sleep on, now permanently ingrained in your tunic. You can't escape it. It's the first thing you smell when you wake up and the last thing you smell before you fall into a restless sleep. You are learning that this rejection of hygiene is a key that unlocks a different state of mind. The constant physical discomfort, the itching, the dampness, the smell, it keeps you in a state of low-grade agitation. It's a constant irritant that prevents you from ever feeling truly relaxed or at peace. It cowers away your softness, your capacity for comfort. It hones your senses to a razor's edge of aggression. You are not just getting dirty. You are tempering your soul in filth. And as you sit there, feeling the louse crawl through the grease in your hair, you understand that the bath day boy is gone forever. You haven't just decided not to bathe, you are forgetting what it even feels like to be clean. The next stage of your initiation is waiting for you, rolled up in a dark corner of the camp. It's not a weapon. It's not a secret rune. It's a hide, a bearskin. It's not a finely tanned and softened cloak, fit for a Agile. This is a raw, stiff, imposing thing. The fur is coarse and matted, and the leathery underside is scraped, but not properly cured. It smells powerfully of the wild and musky animal scent mixed with the faint, coppery tang of old blood and the greasy odor of the fats that still cling to the skin. This will be your armor, your uniform, and your identity. Your mentor, the old, scarred one, unrolls it and throws it at your feet. Put it on, he grunts. This is your hide now. You are a berserk or a bear shirt. You had better get used to it. Lifting it is a surprise. It's heavy, far heavier than any wool cloak. A dead weight that promises to be a constant burden as you drape it over your shoulders. The feeling is immediate and shocking. The inner side, the skin of the bear, is cold, stiff, and slightly greasy against your unwashed skin. It doesn't yield warm to your body. It feels alien, a slab of dead animal resting on your back. The coarse fur on the outside brushes against your neck and arms, an incessant, scratchy irritation. You pull the top part over your head, as you've seen them do. The bear's head, crudely preserved, sits atop your own. Its empty eye sockets seem to stare out at the world for you. The smell is now overwhelming, filling your nostrils, a constant reminder of the beast whose life was taken to provide you with this new identity. This practice of wearing animal pelts is one of the most iconic images of the Berserker, but the reality was likely far from glorious. Historians believe these weren't just symbolic garments. They were a crucial part of a ritualistic transformation. By wearing the hide of a powerful predator like a bear or a wolf, the warrior wasn't just dressing up, they were attempting to absorb the animal's spirit, its strength, and its ferocity. This is a form of sympathetic magic, a belief that like affects found in many ancient cultures. By becoming the bear in appearance, you hope to become the bear in spirit. But the practicalities are grim. This hide has not been treated to be waterproof. When it rains, and it rains often in this part of the world, the fur soaks up the water like a sponge. It becomes impossibly heavy, a sodden, clinging weight that pulls at your shoulders and saps your warmth. The water seeps through to the leather, making it clammy and cold against your back. It never truly dries. In the damp, cool climate, it remains in a perpetual state of musty wetness, a perfect breeding ground for mold and mildew. Soon, a new scent joins your personal bouquet, the sour, earthy smell of rot. When the sun does come out, the hide bakes. The fats and oils within the skin begin to warm up and turn rancid, releasing a new, deeply unpleasant odor. The leather stiffens and cracks, rubbing against your skin, causing chafing and sores, and you can't take it off. This isn't a piece of clothing to be removed at the end of the day. It is your second skin. You sleep in it. You eat in it. You train in it. This leads to a rather specific and unpleasant problem that rarely makes it into the epic poem Skin Ailments. Underneath the hide, your skin can't breathe. Trapped in a dark, damp, and dirty environment, it becomes a canvas for rashes, boils, and fungal infections. The constant chafing from the stiff leather rubs parts of your skin raw, opening you up to infections. It's a miserable, constant state of irritation that grinds you down, adding another layer to the aggressive agitation you are supposed to be cultivating. A strange but historically plausible tidbit is the concept of the Hamingya, a sort of personal luck or spirit guardian that could sometimes take an animal form. It's possible that for some Berserkers, the animal pelt wasn't just about channeling the beast's ferocity, but also about physically manifesting their own Hamingya. They were literally wearing their soul on the outside. But whether this was a commonly held belief or a later poetic invention is, of course, debated among scholars of Old Norse religion. You spend your days learning to move in the heavy skin, to fight with its weight restricting your arms, to ignore the constant, maddening itch. You learn to see it not as a burden, but as a shell, a protective layer not just against swords, but against the world you left behind. It completes the picture of your alienation. The sight of you, draped in this foul-smelling, matted pelt, is enough to make villagers avert their eyes and pull their children close. You are no longer one of them. You are something wilder, something to be feared. One evening, as you huddle by the fire, you feel a crawling sensation on your neck. It's not a louse this time. It's something larger. You reach up and your fingers close around the bloated body of a tick, which has been feasting on you. Hidden in the warmth and darkness of the fur collar, you pull it off, a wave of revulsion passing through you. But then you look at your mentors. They are oblivious, indifferent. You realize they are probably infested with parasites, living within the ecosystem of their own filth and their animal hides. You flick the tick into the fire, where it pops with a tiny, sizzling sound. You have taken another step. You have accepted that this new skin, this foul, heavy, living and rotting hide, is now your own. The man you once were is buried somewhere deep beneath it, and you're not sure you could find him even if you tried. Let's talk about your scent. It's time we addressed it directly, because it has now become your most defining characteristic. It's no longer just a personal hygiene issue, it's a presence. It's a weapon. It's the invisible cloud that surrounds you, announcing your arrival long before you are seen. By now, you have stopped smelling it on yourself. Your own senses have been so completely overwhelmed, so saturated with the odor, that you've become nose blind to it, but others have not. When you walk past, people don't just step aside. They flinch. They turn their heads, their noses wrinkling in involuntary disgust. You can see them breathing through their mouths until you've passed. This is your new power. Let's break down this complex aroma, this signature perfume of the Berserker. It's not a single note, it's a symphony of foulness, composed of several distinct layers. The base note, the foundation of it all, is stale sweat. This isn't the clean, sharp smell of fresh perspiration from a hard day's work. This is the smell of old, dried sweat that has been marinating in coarse wool under your own greasy skin for weeks. It's a sour, acrid, vaguely cheesy smell that clings to everything. It has soaked into the very fibers of your tunic. So even if you were to wash the cloth, which you won't, the ghost of that smell would remain. Layered on top of that is the powerful scent of rancid fat. This comes from two sources. First, your burskin. The hide was never properly tanned, so the residual animal fats trapped within the skin and at the roots of the fur have been slowly going off. Warmed by your body heat in the sun, they release a gag-inducing, cloying smell, like meat left out for too long. Second, there's the fat you use on your own gear. You have a leather belt, leather straps for your shield, and perhaps leather boots. To keep them from cracking, you have to treat them. But you don't have access to refined oils. You use what's available rendered animal fat. This grease, smeared over the leather, quickly turns rancid, adding another layer to your already formidable scent profile. The next note in this olfactory assault is smoke, not the pleasant, aromatic smoke of a well-tended hearth-burning seasoned oak. This is the smell of a smoky, poorly ventilated longhouse, of green wood sizzling and spitting on a fire, of greasy cooking smoke from fatty meat. This heavy, Oily smoke gets into everything. It impregnates your hair, which is now a matted, greasy tangle of perfect scent trap. It works its way deep into your woolen tunic and your bare skin. It's a permanent part of your aura, a constant reminder of smoky, crowded, airless spaces. Then, we must add the subtle, but persistent, top notes. There's the earthy, musty smell of damp and mildew from your never quite dry hide. There's the metallic, coppery tang of old blood. You haven't even been in a real battle yet, but in training, you get cuts and scrapes. Your knuckles have been bloodied. Your nose has been split. You don't wash the blood off meticulously. You just wipe it away. And the faint, rusty smell of dried hemoglobin joins the mix. This combination of smells served a very practical purpose in psychological warfare. Imagine you are an Anglo-Saxon or Frankish soldier, standing in a shield wall. You're already terrified. You've heard stories about the Northmen. Then, from the enemy line, a group of men detaches themselves. They're howling, dressed in animal skins, and before you can even get a clear look at them, you are hit by a wave of stench so overpowering it makes your eyes water. It's an animal smell, a smell of decay and neglect and violence. It's an inhuman smell. It attacks a primal part of your brain, screaming that what is coming for you is not a man, but a rabid beast. Your morale, your will to stand and fight, might break before the first axe is even swung. The deliberate cultivation of a terrifying scent is a niche but fascinating aspect of warfare. While most military history focuses on weapons and tactics, the sensory experience of battle, the sounds, the sights, and yes, the smells plays a huge role in the psychology of a soldier. Did Viking Berserkers consciously think, "I will not bathe for a month to scare my enemies"? Probably not in such explicit terms. It was more likely an organic part of becoming the other, of embracing the beast spirit. The smell was a natural consequence of the lifestyle, a consequence that proved to have a tactical benefit. Whether this benefit was intentional or a fortunate byproduct is one of those small, unanswerable questions that makes history so intriguing. There's also a strange, little-known snippet about Viking hygiene that adds a layer of irony to your current state. The Arab diplomat Ibn Fadlan, who met a group of Rus Vikings on the Volga River, was utterly appalled by their hygiene, describing them as the filthiest of God's creatures. He noted that they would share a single bowl of water in the morning to wash their faces and clear their throats, one after the other. Yet, as we established, Vikings in their homelands were known to be quite clean. This suggests that Viking hygiene standards might have been highly situational, clean at home, but perhaps embracing a more practical filth while on a long-distance expedition or raid. You have simply taken that expeditionary mindset and made it your permanent reality. So as you sit there, radiating a visible aura of stink, you realize that your smell is no longer a source of shame. It's a shield. It's a statement. It keeps the soft, clean world at a distance and solidifies your place in the hard, dirty one you have chosen. You are a walking piece of psychological warfare, and your primary weapon hasn't even been drawn yet. Your world has shrunk. It is now defined by the fire. Your mentors, in the oppressive confines of the longhouse, especially as the days grow shorter and colder. But within this shrinking world, the new, unseen world is thriving. A microscopic and not so microscopic universe has taken up residence on your body and in your living space, and you are learning to coexist with it. Let's start with your immediate companions, the ones living in your hair and clothes. The louse you found earlier was not a lone explorer. It was a scout for a burgeoning civilization. Your hair, unwashed and thick with natural grease, is the perfect environment for head lice. They thrive in the warmth and shelter of your matted locks, breeding undisturbed. The constant, low-grade ditching on your scalp becomes a part of your daily reality, a background noise you learn to ignore. You scratch abstinently, your fingernails coming away with grime and sometimes the tiny crushed body of a louse. Then there are the body lice. They are different. They live in the seams of your woolen tunic. At night, drawn by the heat of your body, they crawl from the seams onto your skin to feed. Their bites leave small, red, intensely itchy welts. Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, scratching furiously at your torso and limbs. A frantic, miserable dance in the dark. This is not a unique affliction. Lice were a simple fact of life for many people in this era. What's different is your complete and utter surrender to them. While a fastidious villager might try to delouse their clothes by leaving them out in the freezing cold or painstakingly picking the knits from the seams, you do nothing. You are a walking pasture, and they are your flock. But the world of tiny creatures extends beyond your own body. Look down at the floor of the longhouse. It's not wood or stone. It's packed earth, beaten down by years of use. But it's not just earth. It's a rich, organic tapestry woven from spilled food, attracting mud, animal droppings from the livestock sometimes brought inside during harsh weather, and bits of discarded rushes that were once meant to keep the floor clean. This floor is alive. In the warmer months, it's a haven for fleas. They lie in wait in the dusty detritus. Then as you walk by or, more likely, lie down to sleep on your simple bed of straw and furs, they leap aboard. They are less permanent in residence than lice, hopping on for a meal and then hopping off again. Their bites are another source of constant, maddening itchiness, particularly around your ankles and legs. This brings us to the very real, though often overlooked, aspect of longhouse life waste. There are no indoor toilets. Waste is dealt with outside, in designated pits, or simply in the surrounding woods. But in the dead of night, or during a raging blizzard, a trip outside is not always practical. Chamber pots are used, but spills happen, and for the very young or the very drunk, the corner of the longhouse might serve as a temporary solution. The floor, therefore, has a faint but permanent smell of stale urine and old waste, a smell that becomes particularly pungent on a damp day. The construction of Viking-era longhouses is a subject of great archaeological interest. Excavations reveal the placement of the hearths, the sleeping platforms, and the posts that held up the roof. But what they also reveal is the cultural layer of the flora dense, dark, organic rich soil that tells the story of daily life. Within this layer, archaeologists find fish bones, seeds, broken tools, and, under a microscope, the eggs of intestinal parasites, a clear indicator of the sanitary conditions. This floor you're living on is a historical document in the making. And what about your bed? It's not much of one. It's a pile of straw or bracken, perhaps with a few animal skins thrown on top, located on a raised wooden platform along the wall. This bedding is rarely, if ever, changed. It's a perfect home for your companions. It's dusty, filled with fleas, lice, and possibly other, more unpleasant things. When you lie down, you are not lying down alone. You are settling into a pre-existing ecosystem. You can feel the rustle of tiny things as you shift your weight. You can smell the musty, mouse-like scent of the old straw. There is an ongoing debate among historians about just how filthy the average longhouse truly was. Some argue that with regular cleaning, fresh washes, and a respect for hygiene, it could be a relatively clean space. Others, citing archaeological evidence like parasite eggs and the sheer density of organic waste, argue that they were likely dark, smelly, and unsanitary places, especially by modern standards. Your experience, living on the fringes with your Berserker brethren, is on the far end of that spectrum. You have chosen the filthiest possible version of this existence. You are no longer just an individual. You are a landscape, a mobile ecosystem of bacteria, fungi, lice, and fleas. This constant, crawling, itching reality serves the same purpose as the smell in the damp hide. It grinds away at your comfort, keeping you in a state of perpetual agitation. It severs another tie to your past self, the self that knew the simple luxury of a clean bed and skin free from the bites of parasites. You have surrendered to this microscopic world. You have accepted its dominion over your body. It is another layer of the beast self you are so desperately trying to build. And in the dark, as you feel the familiar crawl of a louse in your beard, you don't even flinch. It's just part of the background noise of your new life. Winter arrives. It doesn't creep in, it descends like a predator, a great white wolf that swallows the landscape. The wind howls down from the mountains, carrying the sharp bite of ice. The sea turns a turbulent, slate gray. The world outside the longhouse becomes a swirling chaos of snow and wind, a place where a person can get lost and freeze just a few steps from their own door. For weeks, sometimes months, the longhouse ceases to be just a home. It becomes the entire world. Now, the choices you've made, the filth, the hide, the lack of hygiene are amplified, concentrated by the confinement. The longhouse, which was once a large, communal space, now feels impossibly small and suffocating. The first thing you notice is the air, or rather, the lack of it, to conserve every precious scrap of warmth. Every opening is sealed. The main doors are barred, and heavy hides or woolen blankets are hung over them to block the drafts. The small window slits are shuttered. The only ventilation is the smoke hole in the center of the roof, and even that is often partially covered to keep the driving snow out. The central fire, the heart of the longhouse, now burns day and night. It is the sole source of heat and light, but the wood is not always dry and seasoned. Often, it's damp, green wood that smolders and sputters, releasing thick, acrid clouds of smoke. With nowhere to go, the smoke fills the upper reaches of the longhouse, hanging in a dense, gray ceiling that stings your eyes and irritates your lungs. You learn to stay low, to sit or lie down, where the air is slightly clearer. Your eyes are perpetually red-rimmed and watery. A hacking cough becomes a constant companion, a communal chorus in the smoky darkness. And the smell, the complex bouquet you've cultivated, is now sealed in with you, mingling with the scents of everyone else. Dozens of bodies, many of them unwashed for long stretches, crammed into a small space. The air is thick with the smell of stale sweat, damp wool, old leather, and human breath. Add to that the smell of the smoke, the greasy odor of cooking meat, and the faint but ever-present undertones of the livestock that have been brought into a partitioned-off section of the longhouse for their own survival. The combined stench is a physical presence, a thick, greasy air that you have to breathe, that you can almost taste. Life grinds down to its most basic elements: warmth, food, and waiting. The days are a blur of darkness and din. Flickering firelight, you can't see from one end of the longhouse to the other. Faces are just pale ovals floating in the gloom, their features illuminated for a brief moment as they lean into the firelight. It's a claustrophobic, disorienting world. This environment has a profound psychological effect. The lack of sunlight, the too rare quality, the constant proximity to others, it's a recipe for tension. Tempers fray easily. Small annoyances become major grievances. A snoring neighbor, a perceived slight, a dispute over a piece of dried fish, these can escalate quickly in the pressure cooker atmosphere. As an aspiring berserker, you are expected to be on the edge of this tension, to feed on it. The irritability of the longhouse winter is a training ground for the rage you will need later. The study of how environment affects human psychology is modern, but the effects are ancient. Historians and archaeologists who study Viking longhouses often debate the social dynamics of this winter confinement. How did they manage conflict? How did they maintain social order when dozens of people work wrapped together for months? The sagas are full of stories of feuds and killings that erupt within the supposed safety of the hall. It's likely that strict social codes, storytelling, games, and a strong sense of community were essential to survival. But for you, on the fringes, you are watching these social bonds fray, and you are learning. Here's a small, curious detail about winter life: the preservation of food. Your diet consists of what was harvested and preserved in the autumn. Dried fish, salted meat, stored grains, and root vegetables. But sometimes, preservation methods weren't perfect. You might bite into a piece of dried cotton and taste the faint, ammonia-like tang of decay. You might find mold on the hard bread. You eat it anyway. Calories are calories. Your stomach, like the rest of you, is being toughened up, forced to deal with things that would make a softer person sick. You spend your time sharpening your axe, mending your gear with clumsy, greasy fingers, and watching your mentors. They seem perfectly at home in this oppressive environment. They are like bears in hibernation, conserving their energy. Their men is simmering just below the surface. They don't talk much. They watch. They listen. They are teaching you that a warrior's strength is not just in explosive action, but in patient endurance. One night, the wind outside is a physical force, shaking the very timbers of the longhouse. Inside, the smoke is so thick you can barely see the person next to you. The air is a foul cocktail of odors. You are cold, your lungs hurt, and you have an itch you can't seem to find. In this moment of pure sensory misery, you have a strange realization. You are not just surviving this, you are becoming this. The darkness, the smoke, the filth is no longer an external condition. It's seeping into you, becoming part of your internal landscape. You close your eyes, and the outside world, the world of clean air and open spaces, feels like a distant dream. The smoky, stinking, suffocating box is your reality now, and you are ready for it to forge you into the weapon you need to be. The oppressive gloom of winter finally breaks. The air softens, the snow melts, and a sense of restless energy thrums through the longhouse. The war band is preparing to move out. The feud that was simmering all winter is about to boil over. As the warriors ready their weapons and repair their shields, you are taken aside by your scarred mentor. It is time for another, more dangerous, step in your transformation. He leads you away from the settlement, deep into the damp, thawing woods. The ground is soft underfoot, and the air smells of wet earth and new growth. He stops in a dark, shaded part of the forest, where the sunlight struggles to pierce the canopy. There, growing at the base of a birch tree, is a cluster of mushrooms. They are unmistakable, vibrant, almost cartoonish red, speckled with white warts. Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric. Your mentor gestures towards them with a grim look. The stories are true, he says, his voice low. Odin does not always give his gift freely. Sometimes, a man must find his own way to the fury. He is presenting you with a choice, and a deep-seated controversy. The theory that Viking Berserkers used hallucinogenic mushrooms to induce their rage is one of the most popular and enduring ideas about them. It's also one of the most hotly debated among historians and toxicologists. The argument for it seems compelling. The symptoms described in the sagas: the foaming at the mouth, the reddening face, the wild rage, the feeling of immense strength, followed by a long period of lethargy and sickness, match some of the known effects of fly agaric poisoning. The mushroom contains psychoactive compounds, muscimycal and ibotenic acid, which can cause hallucinations, agitation, muscle twitching, and distorted perception. It seems like a perfect key to unlock the Berserkergang. But the arguments against it are just as strong. Many scholars point out that the effects of these mushrooms are notoriously unpredictable. They can cause intense nausea, vomiting, and debilitating muscle cramps, not exactly ideal for a warrior heading into battle. Instead of a focused rage, you might just end up sick and disoriented. Furthermore, there is no direct archaeological evidence, like mushroom residue in a warrior's pouch or stomach contents, to definitively prove their use. The sagas themselves never explicitly mention mushrooms. They speak of a madness given by Odin or a stake that just came upon a man. The mushroom theory is an interpretation, an attempt to find a rational, pharmacological explanation for what seemed like supernatural fury. Your mentor explains that this is not something to be taken lightly. This is not food, he warns. This is a key to a door. that the door swings both ways. It can let the beast out, or it can let madness in for good. He tells you that the dosage is everything, and that it's almost impossible to get right. Too little, and nothing happens. Too much, and you could fall into a coma or simply lie on the ground, twitching on useless. This brings us to a bizarre and rather disgusting piece of lore associated with fly agaric use, particularly in Siberian shamanism, where its use is well documented. The psychopative compounds are excreted in the user's urine largely unchanged. It was common practice for others to drink the urine of the person who ate the mushroom to get a filtered, and supposedly more predictable, dose. There's a fringe theory, though it has very little evidence to support it in a Viking context, that this practice could have been part of Berserker rituals. The idea of a group of warriors sharing a second-hand high is a strange and unsettling thought. You look at the bright red mushrooms, a splash of beautiful poison in the green woods. You are being asked to gamble. Is this the secret? Is this the fuel that will finally ignite the cold, simmering anger you've been cultivating and turn it into the all-consuming fire of the Berserker? Or is it a dangerous shortcut, a poison that could cripple you? You have come too far to turn back now. Trusting the grim wisdom of your guide, you carefully pick one of the mushrooms. It feels cool and slightly damp in your hand. Following his instructions, you don't just eat it raw. He has you prepare it, boiling it briefly to supposedly reduce some of the negative side effects, a piece of folk pharmacology with debatable effectiveness. You chew the rubbery flesh. The taste is bland, earthy, then remarkable. For a long time, nothing happens. You feel foolish, sitting in the woods, having just eaten a poisonous mushroom for no reason. But then, a subtle shift begins in your perception. The colors of the forest seem to become brighter, more intense. The sounds of the birds and the wind in the trees sound distorted, louder, and somehow more menacing. A strange energy begins to build in your limbs. A tingling restlessness. Your heart starts to beat faster. A frantic, heavy rhythm in your chest. A wave of nausea hits you, and you retch, but nothing comes up. Your mentor watches you, his face impassive. This is the test. Can you ride this wave? Can you master the chemical storm brewing inside you? Or will it master you? A red haze seems to tint the edges of your vision, the faces of your enemies, the slights you've endured, the misery of the long winter. It all comes rushing to the forefront of your mind, amplified and twisted into a monstrous rage by the poison now coursing through your veins. You feel a growl building in your throat, a sound that doesn't feel like your own. You don't know if this is the true source of the Berserkergang. Maybe it's just one of many paths. Maybe the real fury comes from somewhere else entirely, from pure, focused rage, from psychological conditioning, from a spiritual ecstasy that has nothing to do with chemistry. The historical debate will rage on for 1,000 years. But for you, in this moment, a door has been opened. The world looks different, and the beast is stirring. The chemical fire you swallowed in the woods doesn't just fade away, it smolders. It has left you with a ragged, vibrating edge, a sense of volatile energy looking for a release. Though, as the warp and gathers on the eve of the march, this energy finds its focus in a shared, ritualistic act of aggression. It's time to learn the meaning behind one of the most famous understood Berserker images, the biting of the shield. You stand with your mentors and a few other men who share your wild-eyed, unkempt look. You are a small, terrifying pack on the edge of the main war party. The other warriors are checking their mail, sharpening their spears, their preparations quiet and professional. Your preparation is different. It is loud. It is primal. Your scarred mentor holds up his shield. It's a simple round shield of linden wood, faced with leather, and trimmed with a band of iron. The iron is dented and scarred from past battles. He holds it up to his face, his eyes crazed and wide over the top edge. He lets out a guttural growl that seems to vibrate in his chest. And then, he bites it. He doesn't just nibble at it. He attacks it. He sinks his teeth into the iron rim, grinding them against the metal with a horrible, scraping sound that sets your own teeth on edge. He shakes his head back and forth like a dog with a rat, his neck muscles corded. A fleck of foam flies from his lips. You stare, mesmerized and horrified. This is not just a display. It is an act of transformation. He is demonstrating a complete disregard for his own well-being, a contempt for pain. He is working himself into a frenzy, a state where the rational mind recedes into primal. Aggressive instinct takes over. Now, it's your turn. You lift your own shield. The weight of it feels familiar, but its purpose in this moment is new. You bring the iron rim to your mouth. You can smell the cold, metallic scent of it, mixed with the rancid smell of the fats you've used to treat the leather. You hesitate. Your teeth are a precious commodity. In this world, there are no dentists. A broken tooth is an invitation to infection, to abscesses, to a slow and miserable death. Every rational part of your brain is screaming at you to stop. But you are not here to be rational. You are here to be a berserker. You look at your mentor, who is still growling, his eyes locked on you. You take a breath, then you bite down. The impact is a shock to your entire skull. The cold, hard iron against the enamel of your teeth is a deeply unnatural feeling. You don't have the jaw strength or the sheer madness to actually dent the iron, but you grind your teeth against it, mimicking the motion. The scraping sensation is jarring, a vibration that travels through your jaw and into your ears. You taste a faint, metallic tang of the iron, mixed with the salty taste of blood as the rough metal scrapes your gums. So what is the historical basis for this? The image of the shield-biting berserker comes directly from the sagas, most famously in Ynglinga's saga, which states that Odin's men bit their shields in their fury. For centuries, this was taken as a literal, if bizarre, fact, but modern historians and actors have questioned the practicality of it. Biting hard iron is an excellent way to shatter your teeth, taking yourself out of a fight before it even begins. This has led to a debate: was biting the shield a literal act, or was it a metaphor, a poetic way of describing their intense fury? Perhaps the phrase meant they held their shields in their teeth to free up both hands for a two-handed axe, a physically demanding but not impossible feat. Or maybe it was purely performative, less about actually damaging the shield and more about the terrifying image it presented. The act you are performing now, a grinding, growling, aggressive display rather than a genuine attempt to chew metal, is likely closer to the truth. It's about showing that you are so lost to rage that you don't care about the consequences. Another, more niche theory, connects it to a condition called bruxism teeth grinding, which can be a side effect of certain stimulants or high states of agitation. Perhaps the uncontrollable urge to clench and grind the jaw, brought on by hallucinogens or extreme stress, found its outlet on the nearest available object, the shield rim. As you continue this jarring ritual, you notice the effect it's having on you and the others. The act itself, the sound, the sensation, the shared madness of it, is a powerful psychological trigger. It's a point of no return. You are stoking the fire, feeding the beast you unlocked in the woods. You begin to tremble, not from fear, but from a surfeit of adrenaline and rage. A low growl escapes your own throat, surprising you with its animalistic tone. You are no longer just a man holding a shield. You are part of a terrifying chorus of growls and scraping metal. The other warriors, the disciplined ones, give you a wide berth. They watch with a mixture of awe and revulsion. You are becoming what they need you to be, the tip of the spear, the chaotic force that will break the enemy's spirit. The act of biting your shield is also a final farewell to your old self. Your teeth, which you once kept clean, which were a sign of your health and status, are now just another tool for inspiring terror. You are deliberately damaging a part of yourself to fuel a temporary, incandescent rage. It's a terrible bargain. When your mentor finally stops, he spits a smear of bloody saliva onto the ground. He grins at you, a truly terrifying sight with his bloodied lips and crazed eyes. He hasn't broken any teeth, but he has crossed a threshold, and as you lower your own shield, your jaw aching and your gums bleeding. You know that you have crossed it with him. The time for preparation is over. The fury has been awakened. The march begins. The war then moves out. A serpent of leather, then steel winding through the greening valleys. There's no grand supply train here. No wagons laden with provisions. Every warrior carries what they need on their own back. And for you, as part of the wild vanguard, your provisions are even more meager. Your focus is not on comfort, but on a grim, self-sufficient mobility. This is where you get your first real taste of a warrior's diet on the move. And it is, in a word, bleak. You huddle around a small, smoky fire at the end of a long day's march. Your feet ache. Your shoulders burn from the weight of your shield and the sodden bare hide. You are hungry. You are hungry. A deep, gnawing emptiness in your belly. One of your companions, the lean, weary man with the wolf coat of an Alfie inn, is in charge of the meal. He pulls out a leather sack and empties its contents into a small iron pot with some water from a nearby stream. What tumbles out is not appetizing. It's a coarse, grayish meal, a flour made from ground barley or rye, maybe with some dried peas mixed in. This is the staple. This is your fuel. He adds a handful of salt and a chunk of something dark and greasy salted pork fat. That's it. No herbs for flavor. No vegetables for health. Just bland, gritty porridge and salt. As it bubbles over the fire, the smell is functional. It smells of sustenance, not pleasure. When it's steamed cooked, which really just means it's hot, it's doled out into rough wooden bowls. You eat with a simple spoon carved from bone, or more often, just with your fingers. The texture is the first thing you notice. It's a gritty, lumpy paste. The barley husks haven't been fully removed, so you feel them scratching the inside of your mouth. Every few bites, your teeth grind on a piece of sand or dirt that found its way into the flour sack. You chew mechanically, you're focused solely on getting the calories into your body. Then there's the meat. On a good day, it might be dried fish, hard as a board, that you have to suck on for an hour to soften. Or it might be salted pork, or mutton, so saturated with salt for preservation that it makes your eyes water. It's tough, chewy, and intensely thirsty work, but today, it's just the lump of pork fat, which has melted into the porridge, giving it a greasy, slightly rancid flavor. You sit down. This is not a meal to be savored. It is a task to be completed. The hygiene of food preparation is, as you can imagine, non-existent. The pot was probably just given a quick, cursory wipe with some grass after its last use. The water came from a stream that you and dozens of other men, and possibly livestock, have been drinking from and crossing all day. Your hands, which you're using to scoop up the gruel, are caked with the grime of the march. You are ingesting a whole new world of bacteria with every mouthful. This is a far cry from the hearty stews and roasted meats of the Longhouse, the logistics of feeding a moving army. Even a small one, are brutal. The food has to be portable, long-lasting, and calorie-dense. Flavor and nutrition are secondary concerns. Historians studying the Viking diet often point to the incredible resilience of their digestive systems. Analysis of preserved Viking latrine waste coprolites shows a dietrich in grains, fish, and meat, but also reveals the presence of numerous intestinal parasites, a direct result of their food and water sources. You are, quite literally, eating worms. What about a more authentic and frankly disgusting food item from this period? One of the most infamous is hawk-arl, the fermented Greenland shark. The shark's flesh is poisonous when fresh, so it's traditionally buried in a shallow pit to ferment for several months, then hung to dry for several more. The result is an ammonia-rich, intensely pungent dish that is an acquired taste, to put it mildly. While this was more of an Icelandic delicacy and not necessarily standard warrior fare, it gives you a sense of the Viking palate and, their willingness to eat things that would make most modern people rich. You can be thankful that it's not shark on the menu tonight. Sometimes, the foraging is better. You might find a patch of wild garlic or some bitter herbs to throw into the pot, which would be a welcome explosion of flavor. You might even get lucky and hunt a rabbit, roasting it over the fire. The smell of the cooking meat a brief moment of pure bliss. But you can't rely on that. You rely on the sack of gritty flour and the lump of salted fat. This diet does more than just keep you alive. It hardens you. It strips away another layer of softness. The pleasure of a good meal is a comfort, and you are systematically being denied all comforts. Your body is learning to run on the crudest of fuels, to extract energy from unappetizing, borderline unhealthy sources. It also fosters a kind of food aggression. When a rare piece of good food, like fresh meat, is available, you eat it quickly, greedily, with a feral intensity. Sharing is done, but there's attention to it. Everyone is hungry. Everyone is desperate for a break from the monotony of the gruel. As you scrape the last of the gritty paste from your bowl, you feel, not full, but no longer empty. The food sits like a rock in your stomach. It's enough. It has to be. You look at your companions, their greasy faces illuminated by the firelight, chewing mechanically on their own portions. No one is complaining. No one is reminiscing about the fine meals of home. They have accepted this reality, and so have you. The gnawing hunger in your belly is just another discomfort to be mastered, another irritation to be channeled into the simmering rage that will soon be unleashed. The path you travel is not a road. It's a barely there track that winds through bogs, over rocky hills, and across swift flowing streams. The gentle green of the valleys was a brief respite. Now you are in the wild, untamed lands that lie between settlements, and the journey itself becomes an ordeal designed to break you down and build you back up as something harder. Your primary enemy on this march is not a rival clan, it's the mud. Spring has thawed the ground, turning vast stretches of the trail into a thick, greedy mire. With every step, your boots sink into the cold, with sludge, and it grabs at you with a sucking sound, trying to pull your boots right off your foot. Walking is no longer a simple, unconscious act. It's a strenuous, deliberate effort of pulling each foot free from the muck, only to plunge it back in again a moment later. Your wool leg wrappings, which are meant to provide support and protection, are soaked through with icy mud. They are heavy, abrasive, and have long since lost any insulating properties. The hem of your tunic is similarly caked and heavy, slapping against your legs with every step. And your burskin, your glorious, unterrible second skin, has become a monstrous burden. It has absorbed the mud and water, doubling in weight. It hangs on your shoulders like a punishment, a constant, wearying drag that saps your strength and your will. Within hours, you are coated, not just your feet and legs, but your hands, your arms, your face. You slip and fall, catching yourself with your hands in the slick mud. You wipe the sweat from your brow with a muddy hand, leaving a smear of grime across your forehead. There is no point in trying to stay clean. The mud is relentless. It gets into everything. This isn't just dirt. This is a rich, organic slurry of soil, decaying leaves, and animal waste. It has a smell of its own, a deep, earthy, slightly sour smell of decay. This new layer of filth plasters over all the others you've so carefully cultivated. It seals in the old smells and adds a fresh, wet one on top. It works its way into the cuts and scrapes on your hands and legs, a direct injection of the wilderness into your bloodstream. The physical toll is immense. Your muscles scream in protest. Your joints ache from the cold and the damp. But the psychological effect is just as powerful. The endless, monotonous struggle against the mud is mentally exhausting. It's a battle of attrition against the landscape itself. This experience, the grueling march, is a fundamental, if unglamorous, part of the warrior's life that is often glossed over in the sagas. They speak of the destination, the battlefield, the hall of the enemy king, but rarely dwell on the sheer misery of getting there. Modern historical reenactors who attempt long-distance treks in period-accurate gear can attest to the brutal reality. The chafing from wet wool, the weight of the gear, the constant battle against the elements. It's a humbling and painful experience. There's an interesting historical debate about the routes Vikings used for overland travel. While they were famed as seafarers, they were also capable of long and arduous land journeys. Did they follow established trade routes, or did they, as a warband might, deliberately take a more difficult, hidden path through the wilderness to maintain the element of surprise? The path you are on now, a bare leader trail through inhospitable terrain, suggests the latter. The price of surprise is misery. As you march, you develop a new kind of awareness. You learn to read the ground, to spot the patch of bog that looks solid but is a deep, boot-sucking trap. You learn to balance on slippery rocks, to use your spear as a walking staff. You are becoming more attuned to the natural world, not out of any romantic love for it, but out of grim necessity. The wilderness is an adversary to be respected and outwitted. One of your companions, a younger man trying to prove his worth, loses his footing and goes down hard, twisting his ankle. He tries to get up, his face pale with pain, but he can't put any weight on it. Your leader, the old, sky berserker, looks at him for a long, cold moment. There is no sympathy in his eyes. "We don't have time for this," he grunts. Two other warriors help the injured man fashion a crude crutch from a branch, but he is slowing them down. He is a liability. You realize with a cold clarity that there is no room for weakness here. If you fall, if you can't keep up, you will be left behind. It's a brutal but simple truth of this life. By the time you make camp for the night, you are an automaton of exhaustion. You don't even have the energy to remove your boots. You simply collapse onto the damp ground, your body a collection of aches and pains held together by sheer will. The mud you're covered in begins to dry in the faint heat of the fire, tightening on your skin, cracking like a clay shell. You lie there, encased in a crust of dried mud, smelling of the swamp, feeling the cold dampness seeping into your bones. This is another crucible. The march is designed to strip away your individuality, your complaints, your sense of self. It reduces you to a single, focused point of forward momentum. It is breaking down the man to make way for the monster. And as you drift off into a restless, uncomfortable sleep, you can feel it working. The man who was afraid of a little dirt is long gone. You are becoming part of the landscape you are fighting, the creature of mud and rage. After days of grueling travel, the landscape begins to change. The endless bogs and forests give way to rolling hills and signs of cultivation. You are getting close. A scout returns with news the enemy settlement is just over the next ridge. The feud is about to be settled in blood and iron. The warband makes a cold camp. No fires allowed that might give away your position. The mood shifts. The weary resignation of the march is gone, replaced by a tense, electric anticipation. The air crackles with it. For the other warriors, this is a time for final preparations, a last honing of an axe blade, the quiet prayer to Thor or Tyr. For you and your small pack of berserkers, the preparation is internal. It is time for the prelude to madness. It begins with a sound. One of the Ulfhenar, the wolf coats, starts to hum, a low, guttural note that seems to come from deep within his chest. It's a disquieting sound, like a large, unseen animal growling. Another warrior picks it up, then another. Soon, you are all humming, your voices combining into a single, vibrating drone that seems to make the very air shiver. This is not a song. It is a tuning of the instruments of rage. Your scarred mentor stands before you. His eyes are already starting to look distant, unfocused. "Forget your name," he rasps, his voice a low command. "Forget your home. There is only the beast. Let it out. Let it feed." He begins to tremble. It starts in his hands, a fine tremor that quickly spreads to his entire body. He is not cold. This is the Berserkergang beginning to take hold, a physical manifestation of the storm gathering within him. He bares his teeth, no longer in a grin, but in a silent, animalistic snarl. This process of deliberately working oneself into a frenzied state is a key element of the Berserker mystery. Was it a purely psychological process, a form of self-hypnosis, where years of conditioning and ritual allow the warrior to bypass the brain's normal inhibitors against violence and pain? Or was it still the lingering effects of the mushrooms you ate, a chemical trigger being activated by stress and ritual? The sagas are vague, describing it simply as a fury that came upon them. Historians today lean towards a complex psychophysical explanation, a combination of psychological conditioning, extreme adrenaline release, hysterical strength, and perhaps ritualistic hyper-intentional or fasting, all designed to push the body and mind into an altered state of consciousness. You follow their lead. You force yourself to tremble, to shake. It feels artificial at first, a forced shiver, but then, as the adrenaline begins to pump through your veins, as the reality of the coming battle sinks in, the trembling becomes real. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs. Your breath comes in short, sharp gasps. The reed haze you first saw in the woods begins to tint the edges of your vision again. You think of every slight, every hardship, the gnawing hunger, the freezing mud, the stinking smoke of the winter longhouse, the crawling lice, the constant, grinding misery. You have been tempering yourself in a forge of discomfort, and this is the moment you were being shaped for. You focus all of it, all that negativity and pain, and you channel it into a single point of white-hot rage. The prelude now becomes physical. The warriors begin to move, pacing back and forth like caged animals. They slam the butts of their spears onto the hard ground. A rhythmic, threatening pounding. They howl, not a human shout of courage, but a long, unnerving cry that echoes the wolves they seek to emulate. You open your mouth and join the cry, the sound tearing from your throat, raw and dragged. It feels good. It feels like a release. A lesser-known, but fascinating part of this ritual may have involved a degree of self-harm, not major, debilitating wounds, but small acts of pain to heighten the senses and prove one's detachment from physical sensation. A warrior might slap his own face, flirt, or bang his forehead against the wood of his shield. These acts of controlled pain can trigger a powerful endorphin rush, further dulling future sensations of injury and heightening the sense of invincibility. You are losing yourself. The individual you were, the one with memories and fears, is receding. In its place is a raw, instinctual creature of aggression. Your senses are both narrowed and heightened. Your focus is entirely on the concept of destruction, yet you are acutely aware of the smell of the damp earth, the feel of the axe handle in your sweating palm, the wild look in the eyes of the man next to you, the leader of the war band, a Jarl who has kept his distance from your feral pack until now, gives the signal to advance. The main body of warriors forms their shield wall, a disciplined, interlocking line of professionals. You and your brethren do not join them. You take your place on the flank, a chaotic, twitching, crawling mass of raw energy. You are the wild card, the shocked roots, the terror weapon. As you move over the ridge, you see the settlement below. It's just waking, smoke curling placidly from the roofs. They don't know you're here. The surprise will be total. You look at your shield, at the dents and scars on its face. You don't need to bite it this time. The madness is already there, bubbling just under the surface. You feel a strange, terrifying joy. The long, filthy journey is over. The prelude is finished. The song of the axe is about to begin. The Jarl raises his arm and drops it. The roar from the main shield wall is a human sound, a shout of courage, of fury, of shared purpose. Your roar is different. It's the sound you've been practicing. The howl of the beast finally unleashed. This is the moment. This is the Berserkergang. Whatever control you had, Whatever conscious thought was holding you together shatters. The world explodes into a maelstrom of sensory overload and pure, unadulterated rage. The red haze at the edge of your vision floods everything, painting the world in shades of blood and fire. There is no strategy. There is no fear. There is only a single, overwhelming impulse to destroy. Your body moves without your command. You are not running, you are hurtling forward, a missile of flesh and fury. Your heavy burskin feels weightless. The axe in your hand feels like a part of your own arm. You are vaguely aware of your pack spreading out, each of you an individual engine of chaos. No longer a cohesive unit, but a scatter of terrifying predators. The sagas describe this state with a kind of awe. They say berserkers were as mad as hounds or wolves, that they were strong as bears or wild bulls. They claimed these warriors were immune to both fire and iron, and that no weapon could bite them. This is, of course, poetic exaggeration, but it speaks to the terrifying effectiveness of this state. What is happening to you? Medically and psychologically, you are experiencing an extreme, almost pathological, adrenaline surge. This fight or flight response is pushed to its absolute limit. Your heart rate is astronomical, pumping oxygenated blood to your muscles at an incredible rate. Your pupils are dilated. Your bronchial passages have widened, allowing you to take in more air. This is the source of the famed superhuman strength. It's not that your muscles are inherently stronger, but that your brain has removed all the normal safety limits that prevent you from tearing them apart. Critically, your perception of pain is gone. The flood of adrenaline and endorphins is so intense that it acts as a powerful, short-term anesthetic. A cut that would normally make you recoil is simply not registered by your brain. This is the truth behind the myth of being immune to iron. You are not immune. You are just overwhelmed by rage and adrenaline to notice the damage being done to your own body. You hit the enemy line not as a soldier, but as a natural disaster. The defenders, farmers and herders, hastily grabbing shields and spears, are not prepared for this. They expect a clash of shield walls. They do not expect a wild-eyed, screaming, foam-flecked creature in a burskin to come crashing into their flank. The sheer psychological shock of your appearance does half the work. Men hesitate. They back away. Their fear is a scent you can almost taste. You swing your axe. You are not using any refined technique your father might have taught you. This is not a duel. You are swinging with the full force of your body. A brutal, cleaving motion. The shock of the impact when your axe bites into a wooden shield travels up your arm. But you barely feel it. You just swing again. And again. There's a significant historical debate here. Were berserkers effective soldiers, or were they a liability on one hand? Their ability to break an enemy's morale and shatter a shield wall was invaluable. They were the ultimate shock troops. On the other hand, they were completely uncontrollable. A berserker in his fury could not distinguish between friend and foe. The sagas contain several accounts of berserkers who, in their rage, turned on their own men after the enemy had been routed. They were a weapon that could easily backfire. For Agile, deploying berserkers was a high-risk, high-reward gamble. You are completely lost in this state. Time loses its meaning. The world is a series of disjointed, hyper-vivid snapshots. A man's terrified face, the splintering of a shield, the jarring impact of your axe, the screams. You are not a person experiencing these things. You are simply the force that is causing them. A strange, almost unknown aspect of this state is the potential for audio and visual hallucinations. In such an extreme state of mental agitation, the brain can create its own reality. You might not just see an enemy, you might see a demon, a Dr. August Star, or some other mythological monster that your rage is directed against. This would further fuel the fury, creating a terrifying feedback loop of violence. You feel a sharp, tearing sensation in your shoulder. A spear tip has caught you. In a normal state of mind, the pain would be searing, debilitating, but now you barely register it. You feel a strange sense of detachment, as if you're watching a movie of someone else being injured. You snap the spear shaft with a roar of contempt and keep moving forward, the broken shaft still protruding from your shoulder. You haven't felt the wound, but your body has sustained it. The bill is coming due, but not yet. Right now, you are invincible. You are the storm. You are the incarnation of Odin's fury. You are the monster from the stories told around the fire. And you are more terrible and glorious than you ever could have imagined. Your humanity is a distant memory, a flickering candle flame in the face of a raging inferno. You have successfully, terrifyingly, lost all control. The world is a canvas of brown and gray, and you are the brush that paints it red. But we won't linger on the color red. We will focus on the mud, the sweat, and the grime. The battle is not a clean, heroic clash of shining steel. It's a messy, desperate, and filthy affair, and you are at the heart of its filth. As the fight rages, the ground beneath your feet becomes a treacherous slurry. The soft earth, already damp from the spring thaw, is churned up by the frantic movements of dozens of fighting men. It mixes with spilled water, blood, and the contents of overturned cooking pots. This thick, slick mud coats your boots, making every step a potential slip, every pivot a gamble. You are not just fighting enemies, you are fighting for footing. You slip and fall, crashing to one knee. The impact jars your entire body. Your knee sinks into the cold, foul-smelling ooze. You push yourself back up, your hands and one leg now completely coated in a thick, brown paste. It's not just mud, it's an organic soup of the battlefield's refuse. This is your new armor. This is your battle paint. The mud sticks to the grease on your skin and the matted fur of your bearskin. It cakes your arms and your face. It mixes with the sweat that is pouring from your body, creating rivulets of grime that run down your face and neck. You spit, and it's a mouthful of mud and grit. The air is thick with the dust kicked up by the struggle. It's a dry, choking cloud of soil and dried grass particles that gets in your eyes, your nose, your mouth. It coats your tongue, giving everything a gritty, earthy taste. You gasped for air, and you inhale dust. Your throat is raw, your voice a hoarse croak from the screaming in the dust. Your body becomes a testament to the chaos. A warrior near you has his helmet knocked aside, and he falls into the mud, his clean, bleached blonde hair instantly transformed into a pathetic, brown-streaked mess. You see a shield, once sprightly painted with a personal emblem, now so completely covered in a layer of mud as to be unrecognizable. The visual identity of the battle is being erased, replaced by a universal uniform of filth. This is a detail of combat that is rarely captured in epic art or poetry, which prefers to focus on the noble poses and the gleam of weapons. But for the soldier on the ground, the grime is an overwhelming reality. It's a constant, distracting, and demoralizing presence. For you, however, it's just another layer of the state you've embraced. The filth doesn't distract you, it grounds you in the brutal reality of the moment. You are not a shining hero. You are a creature of mud and violence. There is a fascinating, though grim, archaeological aspect to this. When battlefield graves are excavated, the skeletons sometimes tell a story not just of wounds, but of the environment. Traces of pollen and soil found with the remains can help historians identify the season and the specific location of a battle, painting a picture of the very ground you are now fighting on. And then there's the sweat, the sheer physical exertion of combat, amplified by your frenzied state, has your body's cooling system working overtime. Sweat pours from you, soaking the inside of your tunic and your bearskin, but it doesn't evaporate. It's strapped against your skin by the layers of wool, leather, then hide. Your clothes become a heavy, sodden, stinking compress against your body. The combination of mud and sweat creates a horrific, abrasive paste. It gets into every fold of your clothing, every joint of your body. It chafes your skin raw under your arms, in your groin, behind your knees, with every movement. This gritty paste grinds against your already irritated skin, creating new sores and aggravating old ones. The pain should be excruciating, but in your current state, it's just a dull background noise. A strange and little discussed theory is whether this layer of filth could, in a purely coincidental way, offer a tiny amount of protection. Could a thick enough layer of caked on muddened leather slightly deflect a glancing blow or make a surface too slick for a blade to bite deeply? Probably. Not in any medically significant way. Any benefit would be minuscule and purely accidental. The much greater danger was the filth getting into any wounds you sustained. You are now a walking collage of the battlefield. You are covered in a thick, drying shell of mud. Your hair is matted with sweat and dirt. Your clothes are a sodden, stinking mess. Your face is a mask of grime, with only your wild, bloodshot eyes showing through. You look less like a human warrior and more like an earth elemental, a creature born of the soil, animated by pure rage. This battlefield camouflage is not intentional, but it is effective. You blend into the chaos and the dirt, becoming a terrifying, indistinct shape of destruction. You look down at your own hands, gripping the handle of your axe. They are unrecognizable. They are caked in so much mud and filth that they look like they are made of clay. They are the hands of a golem, a creature of the earth. And as you raise them to swing again, you feel a primal connection to the dirt and the violence. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. In the swirling chaos of the fight, it finally happens. You don't see it coming. A desperate defender, armed with a short, broad-bladed axe, swings wildly as you crash past him. You feel not so much a sharp pain as a sudden, heavy thud against your thigh, as if someone struck you with a blacksmith's hammer. You stumble, your leg buckling for a moment. You look down. There is a deep, ragged gash in your upper leg, cutting through your wool trousers and deep into the muscle beneath. The edges of the wound are messy, torn rather than cleanly sliced. It's a serious injury, a wound that could, and often did, end a warrior's life. But right now, in the throes of the Berserkergang, the pain is a distant echo. It's a dull, throbbing pressure, a signal from a part of your body that feels disconnected from your raging mind. You feel a strange sense of curiosity, looking at the injury as if it belongs to someone else. You see the dark muscle tissue, the startling white of exposed fat and sinew. Then, the blood begins to well up, the slow, thick tide of dark red that spills out over the caked-on mud of your leg. You let out a roar, not of pain, but of pure, frustrated rage. The injury is an inconvenience. It is an insult. It is slowing you down. Without a second thought, you lurch forward again, dragging the injured leg behind you. The new, asymmetrical rhythm to your rampage. This moment is the gateway to one of the most terrifying aspects of pre-modern life wound care. For you, the battle is only the first part of the danger. The second, and often more lethal, part begins the moment you are wounded. You are now a walking, open invitation to every bacterium and microbe in this filthy environment. The axe that cut you is not a sterile surgical instrument. Its iron blade was likely carrying traces of rust, dirt, and old, dried blood from its last use. As it sliced through your skin, it delivered a payload of contaminants deep into the tissues. Then, as you stumbled and continued to fight, the wound was further contaminated by the churned-up mud of the battlefield, by the filthy fabric of your own trousers, and by the grime on your skin. You have, in effect, packed the injury with a potent cocktail of everything that can cause a deadly infection. The Viking approach to medicine was a complex mixture of practical knowledge, herbal remedies, and magical belief. They were skilled observers. They knew, for example, that certain wounds were mortal and others were survivable. One famous, if grisly, diagnostic method described in the sagas is the onion soup test. A warrior with a deep torso wound would be fed a strong soup made with onions and herbs. If the smell of the onions could be detected coming from the wound, it meant the abdominal wall had been breached, and the injury was considered fatal. This demonstrates a pragmatic, evidence-based approach, but it existed alongside a belief that chants, runes, and appeals to the gods were just as important. Tai healer, often a woman known as a L-K-Nir or G-R-Ari, would not only clean and bind a wound, but might also carve protective runes or chant spells to drive out the wound worms believed to cause infection. This blend of the practical and the magical is a core feature of their worldview. Whether one was considered more important than the other is a subject historians still ponder. Did they believe the herbs worked on their own? Or did they only work because the chant activated their power? For now, you are unaware of any of this. You are still lost to the red mist. The blood pumps from your leg, leaving a dark trail behind you in the mud. The wound is glorious. It is a testament to your fury, proof that you can take a blow that would fell a lesser man and keep fighting. It doesn't feel like a weakness, it feels like a badge of honor. You are a living embodiment of a grim statistic. Historians analyzing skeletal remains from Viking era burial sites often find evidence of healed fractures and weapon injuries, showing that many warriors survived incredible trauma. But they also find evidence of horrific infections like osteomyelitis, where the bone itself becomes infected. These would have been slow, agonizing, and ultimately fatal conditions. For every warrior who survived a glorious wound, many more likely died days or weeks later, shivering with fever in a smoky longhouse. Your leg is becoming stiff. The muscles, damaged and deprived of a steady blood supply, are beginning to seize up. You are slowing down, your movements becoming more clumsy and erratic. The adrenaline that has been masking the pain is beginning to ebb, and the first true, searing waves of agony are starting to break through the haze of your rage. The battle is winding down. The defenders are broken. The settlement is taken. As the fury recedes, it leaves a vacuum, and into that vacuum rushes an ocean of pain. You finally fall, not from a new blow, but from the simple, overwhelming reality of the one you have already sustained. You lie in the mud, gasping, the world swimming back into focus, and all you can see, all you can feel, is the gaping, filthy hole in your leg. The glory is gone. The fear is returning. The real battle for your life has just begun. The red mist has evaporated, leaving you beached on the shores of a cold, painful reality. You lie in the mud and filth of the captured settlement, your companions celebrating their victory around you with guttural shouts and the sound of splintering wood. But your world has shrunk to the searing, throbbing universe of the wound in your thigh. Your scarred mentor, his own rage now subsided into a weary, grim satisfaction, leans over to you. He glances down at the gash. There is no pity in his eyes, only a pragmatic assessment. He grunts. It's a clean cut. You might live. His definition of clean is very different from yours. The wound is a horrifying mess of torn tissue, clogged with a paste of mud and congealing blood. He calls over an older woman. She is not one of the warriors. She is one of the captured, her face a mask of stony resignation, but she is known as a healer, and her skills are now the property of the victors. She carries a small leather pouch and a wooden bowl of water that was likely scooped from the nearest well or stream, teeming with invisible life. She kneels beside you, her movements methodical and detached. First, she takes a piece of cloth, probably ripped from the tunic of a fallen man, and dips it in the water. She begins to wash the wound. The sensation is excruciating. Every dab of the wet, rough cloth sends lightning bolts of pain up your leg. She is not gentle. Her goal is to clean out the visible, breathe the mud, the grit, the splinters of cloth from your trousers. You bite down on a leather strap to keep from screaming. The taste of greasy, rancid leather filling your mouth. Once she is satisfied that the worst of the filth is gone, she reaches into her pouch. What she pulls out is not a clean bandage or a soothing salve. It's a wad of something gray and sticky, interwoven with dark specks. It's a clump of spider bears, mixed with dirt and moss from the place where it was harvested. This is your state-of-the-art wound dressing. The use of cobwebs to pack wounds is a practice found in folk medicine across many cultures and centuries, and strangely, there's a sliver of scientific logic to it, even if they didn't understand why. Spider silk is rich in vitamin K, which can help with blood clotting. The webs themselves, being sticky and dense, create a physical mesh that helps to stanch the bleeding and provides a framework for a clot to form. Furthermore, some types of spider silk have natural antiseptic and antifungal properties. It's a remarkable piece of natural medicine discovered through generations of trial and error. But this isn't a sterile, lab-grown spider bear patch. This was scraped from the dusty, dark corner of a barn or a longhouse. It's full of dust, insect parts, and whatever bacteria were living in it, as the healer packs the sticky, gray mass into your open wound. She is introducing a whole new ecosystem of potential pathogens. A folk wisdom that saw the benefits of the web was blind to the invisible dangers it carried. She works the gruesome poultice deep into the gash, ensuring it fills every crevice. The feeling is nauseating, a sticky, cloying pressure inside your leg. Then, she might add another layer of folk remedy, perhaps a poultice of yarrow, an herb known as warrior's woundwort for its ability to stop bleeding, or maybe a layer of sagana moss, which is incredibly absorbent and has mild antiseptic qualities. Archaeologists have found this moss preserved in ancient sites, indicating its widespread use. Finally, she takes a strip of linen again, of questionable cleanliness, and binds the whole mess tightly. The pressure is immense, a deep, constricting ache that makes the sharp pain of the cut almost seem preferable. This is the peak of your medical care. The rest is up to you, your body, and the gods. The debate over the efficacy of these methods is a lively one in the field of experimental archaeology. Some researchers have recreated these ancient remedies and found them to be surprisingly effective at controlling bleeding and preventing certain types of infection. Others argue that the risk of introducing deadly bacteria like Clostridium tetani, which causes tetanus from the dirt and cobwebs, far outweighed any potential benefit. The outcome was likely a lottery. Sometimes it worked, and sometimes it led to a fate far worse than a quick death on the battlefield. You are left to lie there, your leg bound in a filthy, semi-magical bandage. Your mentor gives you a nod of approval. You took the treatment without crying out. You have passed another test. He leaves you a water skin and a piece of dried meat, and then rejoins the others. The adrenaline has completely abandoned you now, leaving you shivering and weak. A deep, bone-aching chill sets in, the first sign of shock. The pain in your leg settles into a relentless, pulsing beat, a drum that will be the rhythm of your life for the next few days. You look at the bulky, stained bandage on your thigh. You have been saved from bleeding to death. But what has been packed into the wound along with the spitter bears, what invisible things are beginning to stir and multiply in the war? Dark, damaged tissue of your body. You have survived the battle. Now, you must survive the cure. The next few days are a blur of pain and fevered sleep. The victorious warband lingers in the captured settlement, feasting on the spoils. But you are not part of the celebration. You are confined to a dark corner of a longhouse, your world defined by the wooden wall on one side and the throbbing agony in your leg on the other. The wound, your glorious wound, has begun to speak. At first, it's a low whisper of constant, burning pain. The area around the bandage becomes hot to the touch, the skin turning a tight, angry red. This is the first sign that your body's defenses are being overwhelmed. The spitter bears in mud, which were meant to save you, have betrayed you. They were a Trojan horse, and the invaders they carried are now waging a silent, microscopic war inside your flesh. This is the domain of the invisible enemy, the one against which your axe and your rage are useless. This is the world of tetanus, gangrene, and sepsis, the true alpha predators of the pre-antibiotic world. Let's start with tetanus. The bacterium, Clostridium tetani, thrives in environments like soil, dust, and animal feces, in other words. The exact ingredients of the paste now stewing in your leg. It enters the body through deep puncture wounds, just like yours. It's an anaerobic bacterium, meaning it hates oxygen. A deep, tightly packed wound is the perfect home for it. Once inside, it doesn't cause a lot of local damage. Instead, it releases a potent neurotoxin. You might first notice its work as a strange stiffness in your jaw and neck. You find it difficult to open your mouth, as if your muscles are being clamped shut. This is the infamous lock-hood. The toxin then spreads, causing violent, uncontrollable muscle spasms. Your back might arch so severely that it could break your spine. Every muscle in your body contracts in an agonizing, full body cramp. It's a terrifying and almost invariably fatal condition. Then there is gangrene. This is what happens when the tissue itself begins to die. It can be caused by a loss of blood supply to the area, or by a bacterial infection that rages out of control. Your leg, already damaged and with its circulation compromised, is a prime candidate. The first sign is a change in color. The angry red of the initial infection begins to darken, turning a bruised purple, then a sickly, mottled black. The skin becomes cold to the touch, and then comes the smell. It's a uniquely foul, sweetish, rotting odor that, once smelled, is never forgotten. It's the smell of your own body decaying while you are still alive. Gas gangrene, caused by another species of Clostridium, is even more horrific. The bacteria release gas as they multiply, causing the tissue to swell and crackle when pressed, a condition known as crepitus. The Viking understanding of these processes was, of course, very different. They didn't know about bacteria. They would see the pus, the discoloration, the smell, and attribute it to wound worms devouring the flesh, or to the wound being cursed by an enemy's magic. The treatment would be more of what you've already had: more poultices, more chants, more runes carved on a stick and placed near the bed. The idea of opening the wound again to clean it, or heaven forbid amputating the limb, was a concept that was still in its brutal infancy. Amputation without anesthesia or an understanding of sterile procedure was an agonizing ordeal with an astronomically high mortality rate. Most healers would not even attempt it. This is where historical and archaeological evidence gets truly grim. Skeletons have been found showing the telltale signs of severe, chronic bone infections, osteomyelitis, that the individual lived with for years, their bones swollen and deformed. These people would have been in constant, debilitating pain. The question of how ancient peoples dealt with such chronic, intense pain is a subject of ongoing research. Did they use herbal painkillers like poppy or henbane? Did they rely on alcohol? Or was a life of severe pain simply a more accepted, common reality? Your fever climbs. The world dissolves into a series of nightmarish hallucinations. You are hot, then you are freezing, racked with uncontrollable shivers. You cry out for water. You throat a desert. Your companions, your fellow berserkers, might look it on you, but there is little they can do. They see this as a battle between you and the spirits. If your own spirit is strong enough, you will drive out the sickness. If not, then you were not worthy. It's a harsh but simple philosophy. The healer comes back. She unwraps the bandage, and a wave of foul-smelling air hits her. She sees the swollen, discolored flesh, the thick, greenish-yellow pus weeping from the wound's edges. Her face remains impassive, but she knows this is no longer a wound to be healed. This is a body that is being consumed from within. She might perform a final, desperate act. Using a heated knife, she could try to cauterize the wound, searing the dead flesh in an attempt to stop the spread of the decay. The smell of your own burning skin would fill the air, and the agony would be beyond anything you have ever imagined. But it is a last-ditch effort, and rarely successful. You are drifting now, lost in the fever dream. The whispers of the wound have become a roar, drowning out everything else. You fought a battle of iron and were victorious, but you are losing the battle of the flesh. The unseen enemies, delivered by the very mud you embraced and the cure you were given, are claiming their prize. Against all odds, the fever breaks. One morning, you wake up not to the swirling chaos of delirium, but to the dim, familiar sight of the longhouse roof. Your sheets, which are really just your own filthy clothes and a spare wool blanket, are drenched in sweat. You are weak, so weak that lifting your head feels like a monumental effort, but your mind is clear. The raging fire inside you has burned itself out, leaving behind a landscape of ashen embers. You look down at your leg. It's a ruin. The healer's desperate measures, or perhaps just your own stubborn constitution, have halted the relentless march of the infection. But the cost is written on your body. The wound is a deep, crater-like cavity of scarred, discolored tissue. The muscles are knotted and shrunken. The leg is noticeably thinner than your healthy one. It will never be the same. You have survived, but you will carry this reminder, this weakness, for the rest of your life. But the immediate sensation is not one of relief. It's one of absolute, profound filth. The Berserkergang is gone. The adrenaline is gone. The fever is gone. And in their absence, your normal human senses have returned with a vengeance. For the first time in what feels like a lifetime, you are truly aware of your own condition. The first thing you notice is the feel of your own skin. It's coated in a thick, greasy, gritty layer of old sweat, dirt, and dry blood. Your back is raw and tender from lying in one position for so long, the beginnings of bed sores adding another layer of misery. Then, the smell. Oh, the smell. It hits you with the force of a physical blow. It's not the abstract, weaponized stench you cultivated before. This is the intimate, horrifying smell of your own sickness. It's the sour, stale odor of old sweat and fever, mixed with the faint, lingering sweetness of the wound's decay. It's the smell of the musty, unwashed wool you've been lying in, and the ammoniac tang of stale urine from the moments your fever was too high to control your body. You are disgusted by your own presence. And the itch, with the rage and fever gone, you are now a walking banquet for every parasite you've been hosting. The lice in your hair and the fleas in your bedding seem to have redoubled their efforts. The itching is no longer a background irritation to be ignored, it's a maddening, all-consuming torment that your weakened body can barely summon the energy to scratch. This is the morning after the fury. The sagas describe this state well. After the Berserkergang were seated, the warrior would be left feeble, weak, and powerless, sometimes for several days. It's a state of profound physical and mental exhaustion, a deep system crash after an incredible system overload. Your body has burned through all its reserves, and now it is running on fumes. The psychological toll is just as heavy. The invincibility you felt, the divine madness, is gone. You are left with the cold, hard reality of your own fragile, wounded body. You remember flashes of the battle, not as glorious deeds, but as a chaotic, terrifying blur. Did you kill men? Probably. Did you harm your own comrades in your blind rage? It's a terrifying possibility that you dare not examine too closely. The gap between the man and the monster, which you had worked so hard to close, is now a vast, yawning chasm. You feel like two different people inhabiting one broken body. This dual-state experience is something modern soldiers with PTSD can sometimes relate to. The feeling of being detached during a traumatic event, followed by a period of exhaustion, confusion, and a struggle to reconcile the battle self with the normal self. While we must be careful not to apply modern diagnoses an anachronistic ally, the descriptions of the post-Berserker state in the sagas suggested deep understanding of the psychological price of extreme violence. The debate continues: was this a revered spiritual state or a recognized, and perhaps feared, form of temporary madness? Your mentor comes to see you. He brings you a bowl of thin, watery broth. He looks at your ruined leg, that your weak, trembling state. He doesn't offer words of comfort. He simply says, "The fury is a fire. It warms you, and it burns you. You have been burned. Now you heal." He is telling you that this, too, is part of the process. The weakness, the pain, the revulsion, it's the price of the ticket. You cannot have the godlike rage without the pathetic, human aftermath. As you lie there, shivering and stinking in your own filth, you feel a profound sense of disillusionment. The power of the Berserker was a temporary loan, and the interest rate is brutally high. You are left with a crippled leg, a haunted mind, and a layer of grime so deep you can't imagine ever being clean again. The thrill is gone. All that remains is the cold, sticky, and deeply unpleasant consequence of your choices. Weeks pass. Your leg has begun to heal, knitting itself back together into a landscape of angry, purple scars. You can stand, with the help of a crude crutch, and even hobble a few steps. The weakness is slowly receding, replaced by the dull, constant take that will now be your lifelong companion. The war band has moved on from the conquered village, returning to your home settlement with their spoils and their stories. You are a hero of a sort. People look at you with a new respect, a new fear. They saw you on the battlefield, a whirlwind of destruction. They see the grooves unwound you survived. You are pointed out. Children whisper your name. You have earned the reputation you sought. But a strange thing happens. Now that the fever and the weakness have passed, you feel an overwhelming, desperate urge. You want to be clean. The memory of the feeling of filth, the intimate knowledge of your own sick scent, has created a powerful revulsion in you. You crave the simple, forgotten feeling of clean water on your skin. One day, you hobble down to the river's edge, away from the main settlement. You strip off your clothes, the greasy, stinking wool tunic, the leg wrapping stiff with old blood and mud. They are beyond saving. You throw them into the current and watch them float away. A symbolic shedding of your ordeal. Then, you lower yourself into the shockingly cold water. The sensation is so intense it takes your breath away. It's a clean, sharp pain that feels like a purification. You begin to scrub at your skin, your fingernails scraping away weeks of accumulated grime. The water around you turns a murky brown. You wash your hair, trying to work your fingers through the matted, greasy tangles, pulling out knots of filth and shedding lice. It's a long, arduous, and painful process. But here is the strange part your Berserker companions do not approve. When you return to the longhouse, shivering but clearer than you've been in months, your scarred mentor looks at you with something like disappointment. The dirt is a shield. He grunts. The smell is a warning. You are washing away your strength. For them, the state of ritualistic filth is not a temporary condition for battle. It has become their permanent identity. To them, your act of washing is a sign of weakness, a step back towards the soft, civilized world you supposedly left behind. They believe that the filth is part of what makes them feared, part of what keeps their inner beast close to the surface. It is a constant reminder of their separation from normal society. This introduces a fascinating, undebated aspect of Berserker culture, the cool-down period. After a battle, did they immediately reintegrate into society, or was there a period where they were expected to maintain their fearsome, unkempt persona? The sagas sometimes depict Berserkers as being volatile and dangerous, even in peacetime. This suggests that their performance of wildness didn't just stop when the fighting did. Your filth, your smell, your unkempt appearance, these were your uniform, and you were not supposed to take it off just because the war was over. Your victory grime was a trophy, a visible testament to your deeds that was meant to be displayed. By washing, you have committed a faux pas. You have broken character. You are signaling that you wish to rejoin the world of soap and combs, a world they have permanently rejected. This puts you in a strange limbo. You are too wild and scarred for the normal villagers, who still eye you with fear and keep their distance. But now, you are too clean for your own brotherhood of outcasts. You have violated their unspoken code. A little known cultural tidbit that might be relevant here is the Norse concept of losing face. Social standing was incredibly important. and being shamed or seen as we could have serious consequences. By washing, you may have inadvertently shamed your companions, implying that their way of life, their permanent state of filth, is something to be escaped from. The next few days are tense. Your mentors ignore you. They no longer share their food or their fire with you as freely. You are being ostracized. You feel a new kind of isolation, not from the clean world, but from the dirty one you fought so hard to join. You realize that the path of the Berserker is not just about temporary rage. It's a commitment to a permanent state of being. It's a lifelong performance of monstrosity. The dirt and the smell were not just a means to an end, they were the end itself. They were the physical manifestation of a spiritual choice. Confused and alone, you look at your scarred leg, then at your cleaned hands. You fought for this new identity, bled for it, but you find yourself unwilling to pay the full price, the price of never feeling clean again, the price of living forever in a walking cloud of your own stench. You survived the battle, you survived the wound, but you are not sure you can survive the peace. The choice to wash, an act that felt like a return to sanity, has only deepened your conflict. You have made a choice. Your brave, desperate return to cleanliness was a momentary lapse. The isolation from your pack was more painful than the filth. Slowly, reluctantly, you begin to let the grime accumulate again. You stop washing. You let your hair grow matted. You find another rough spun tunic and begin the long process of turning it into a stinking, greasy second skin. You are recommitting to the path. And as your personal scent returns to its former glory, that complex bouquet of stale sweat, rancid fat, and wood smoke, you begin to truly understand its power, not just on the battlefield, but in the tense, fragile piece of daily life. You are learning that your smell, your very presence, is a form of passive psychological warfare. You are becoming a walking biohazard, and it is your greatest tool. When you walk through the settlement, a space opens up around you. People don't just move out of your way, they recoil. Mothers pull their children behind their skirts, their eyes wide. Men who would normally greet you with a nod now stare at the ground, hoping you will pass without incident. You can clear a path to the front of the line for the stew pot without saying a word. Your stench is a shield of intimidation. This is power. It's a crude, brutish kind of power, but it is intoxicating. You are no longer just a man in a village. You are a force of nature that others must react to. Let's analyze this phenomenon more closely. The effect is twofold. First, there is the simple, primal disgust. The human brain is hardwired to react negatively to smells of decay and poor hygiene, as these are often indicators of disease and danger. Your scent triggers this ancient alarm system in everyone you meet. It's an involuntary, visceral reaction that they cannot control. Second, your smell is a statement of intent. It says, I do not care about the rules. I do not care about your comfort. I do not care about the things that bind your society together. It signals a profound and dangerous level of detachment. A man who is willing to live in such a state is a man who is likely willing to do anything. He has nothing to lose. He is unpredictable, and therefore, terrifying. This use of sensory intimidation is a fascinating, if understood, aspect of social control and warfare. While we often think of psychological warfare in terms of propaganda or overt threats, manipulating the enemy's or neighbor's senses can be just as effective. Did Berserkers understand this on a strategic level? Almost certainly not, but they understood its effects on a personal, intuitive level. They saw the fear in people's eyes, and they knew it gave them an advantage. This leads to a point of historical debate. Were Berserkers always on, or was the unkempt, terrifying persona something they adopted only when it was useful? The sagas often portray them as permanently volatile, getting into brawls and threatening farmers, even in times of peace. This suggests that for many, the line between the performance and the reality was blurry, or perhaps non-existent. They lived the part. 24. Your current existence reflects this. You are not just playing a monster, you are living as one. There is a strange and grimly amusing side effect to your condition. Pests leave you alone. The dogs that normally nip at people's heels give you a wide berth, whining and tucking their tails. A fly that might buzz around a cleaner person's head seems to avoid the toxic cloud that surrounds you. You are too foul even for them. You have become the apex predator of the filth ecosystem. You see the effect most clearly when dealing with outsiders. When a trader from another land arrives, his eyes widen in horror as you approach. He is eager to conclude his business with you, often at a disadvantage to himself, just to be free of your presence. Your stench is a powerful negotiating tool. Your comrades, your fellow bear shirts and wolf coats, welcome you back into the fold with grunts of approval. They see you have understood your mistake. You are once again one of them. You share a meal of half-cooked, greasy meat, your combined odors creating a bubble of foul air around your fire that no one else dares to penetrate. You have found your place again, at the very bottom of the hygiene ladder and the very top of the fear hierarchy. You are no longer just a warrior. You are a walking, breathing symbol of terror. Your lack of hygiene has become your most consistent, unreliable weapon. An axe can be taken from you. Your strength can fail, but your smell is always with you. It is the first thing that enters a room and the last thing to leave. It is the ghost that lingers in your wake. You have fully embraced this truth. You have accepted that to be truly feared, you must first become truly disgusting. You have achieved what you set out to do. You are a Berserker. Your name is spoken in hushed, fearful tones. Your deeds in the last ray have already become the stuff of local legend, embellished with every telling. You are a hero, but as you settle into this new role back in your home village, you discover the profound loneliness of being a monster. You walk through the settlement, your hobbling gait and your overwhelming presence parting the crowds. You are respected, yes, but it is the respect one gives to a chained bear or a coming storm. It is a respect born entirely of fear. No one meets your eye. The easy camaraderie you once shared with the other villagers is gone, replaced by a wall of nervous silence. You enter the main longhouse in the evening. As you find a place by the fire, the men sitting nearby subtly shift away, creating a small, empty space around you. The conversation, which was lively and full of laughter, falters and dies. People turn their attention to their food, their tools, anything to avoid engaging with you. You are a black hole in the social fabric of the hall. The women, who once might have shared a smile or a joke, now avert their gaze and hurry past. The idea of finding a partner, of having a family, seems like a distant, impossible dream. Who would want to share a bed with a man who sleeps in a rotting bearskin and carries the stench of the battlefield with him, like a shroud who would want their children near a man whose rage is a constant, simmering threat? This isolation is the unspoken price of your power. The sagas are filled with heroic warriors, but they are often tragic, isolated figures. The great hero Greta the Strong, for example, was an outlaw who spent much of his life in lonely exile. While not strictly a berserker, his story reflects a common theme: great strength and ferocity often set a man apart from his community, making a normal life impossible. You are a hero, that you are not a friend, you are not a neighbor, you are a weapon, and weapons are kept apart until they are needed. This social isolation likely had a real psychological impact. Humans are social creatures. To be constantly ostracized, even if it's out of a kind of fearful respect, would be emotionally corrosive. Historians debate whether berserkers formed their own tight-knit communities to counteract this, creating a society of outcasts that provided the social connection they couldn't find elsewhere. Your own small pack of unwashed brethren is your only source of true companionship. You understand each other. You share the same stench, the same haunted look in your eyes. You are brothers in filth and fury. There's a small, poignant detail in your daily life. The village dogs, which are usually a friendly, boisterous part of the community, treat you differently. They don't bark or run up to you for a scrap of food. They whine and flatten themselves to the ground as you pass, their tails tucked, recognizing you not as a human master, but as a predator, a dangerous and unpredictable alpha. Even the children, who are usually fearless and curious, have learned to fear you. You see them playing, their laughter echoing through the village, but if you get too close, their games stop. They fall silent and scurry back to their mothers, peeking at you from behind a protective leg. The innocence of the world shies away from you. This is the hero's paradox. You fought to protect this community, to bring it victory and spoils. You endured pain and filth and madness for them, and in doing so, you have made it impossible for you to ever truly be a part of it again. You have become the other, the monster that guards the gate. Used by the fire, alone in your bubble of stench and silence. You watch the families, the friends, the lovers. You see the small, everyday acts of connection, a shared look, a touch on the arm, a burst of shared laughter. These are things that your power, your fearsome reputation, can never buy you. You are a revered outcast, a celebrated pariah. You pull your stinking bearskin tighter around your shoulders. It is your armor, your identity. But tonight, it feels less like a symbol of your strength and more like the wall of your prison. You have the fear of everyone in the room, but you would trade a good portion of it for a single, honest smile. The loneliness of the hero is a colder, deeper wound than any axe could ever inflict. The years begin to take their toll. The life you have chosen is a brutal, corrosive one, and your body, which you have treated with such contempt, is beginning to present you with the bill. The fearsome warrior, the untamed beast, is being slowly, inexorably broken down from the inside. The first thing you notice is your teeth. The shield-biting ritual, which you once performed with such furious pride, was not without consequence. Your front teeth are chipped and worn down. The constant grinding has put hairline fractures in the enamel. The lack of any real dental hygiene has allowed decay to take root. You have a persistent, low-grade tooth itch that sometimes flares into a hot, stabbing agony. Eating the tough, salted meat that makes up much of your diet has become a painful ordeal. You chew carefully, using the side of your mouth, but sometimes you bite down wrong, and a jolt of pure misery shoots through your jaw. Then there is your skin. The years spent in a perpetually damp, filthy, and chafing bearskin have turned your back and shoulders into a mess of chronic ailments. You have persistent rashes that never fully heal, fungal infections that cause constant itching and flaking, and the occasional painful boil that swells up, throb for days, and then bursts, leaving another scar. Underneath your tunic, your skin is a roadmap of old bites, sores, and irritations. It's a constant source of low-level discomfort that you've learned to live with, but it saps your energy and your mood. And of course, there's your leg, the glorious wound. It never healed properly. The muscles are permanently tightened, wasted, and the scarred tissue aches with a deep, throbbing pain whenever the weather turns cold and damp. Your hobble has become more pronounced. You can no longer run. Your movements, which were once explosively fast, are now labored and clumsy. In a fight, this is a fatal weakness. You have to rely more on brute strength and reputation than on speed and agility. The life of a warrior in this age was notoriously hard on the body. Skeletal remains from Viking graves are a testament to this. Archaeologists frequently find evidence of debilitating arthritis in the joints, especially the back, knees, and shoulders, caused by a lifetime of physical stress. They find poorly healed fractures, bones deformed by infection, and severely worn teeth. The image of the vital, powerful Viking warrior is accurate for a man in his prime, but that prime was often short. The decline into a state of chronic pain and disability could be swift. There is a historical debate about the average life expectancy of a Viking. While many died young in battle or from disease. If a man survived into his 20 seconds and 30 seconds, he had a decent chance of living into his 40 seconds or 50 seconds. But the quality of that later life is another matter. A 40-year-old warrior would likely have the body of a much older man by modern standards, worn down by a lifetime of hardship. You feel this aging process acutely. The cold seems to get into your bones more easily now. The smoky air of the longhouse, which you once barely noticed, now sends you into fits of deep, rattling coughs in the morning. Your lungs, damaged by years of breathing in smoke, are not what they used to be. The very thing that made you a legend, the Berserkergang, is also becoming harder to summon. The incandescent, brain-wiping rage requires a reservoir of physical and mental energy that you simply no longer possess. The attempts to work yourself into a frenzy leave you feeling drained and shaky rather than empowered. The fire that once burned so hot is now just flickering embers. You are being unmade, not by an enemy's axe, but by the slow, grinding erosion of your own lifestyle. The filth that was your shield has become a poison. The fury that was your sword has become a memory. You are being betrayed by your own body. You sit by the fire, nursing your aching joints. A group of young, boastful warriors are telling stories of their first raid. They look at you with awe. This living legend. They see the scars, the fearsome demeanor, the unkempt appearance. They see the myth. They don't see the man beneath, the man whose teeth hurt too much to chew his food properly, whose every step is a negotiation with pain, whose skin is a constant torment. You have become a monument to a way of life that is, by its very nature, self-consuming. You are a warning, written in scarred flesh and aching bones. The path of the Berserker promises a short, glorious life, but it rarely mentions the possibility of a long, painful one. You are living that postscript. Then you realize, with a cold sense of dread, that the greatest enemy you now face is your own broken body. The fire within you has dwindled to a pilot light. The great, roaring bonfire of the Berserkergang is a distant memory, a story you tell yourself more than a state you can actually achieve. You are old now. Not in years, you might only be in your late 30 seconds or early 40 seconds, but you are old in the way that a sword that has been used in too many battles is old. Your edge is gone. Your metal is fatigued. The war bands still go out, led by younger, stronger, more reckless men. They invite you to join them, out of respect for your reputation, but you decline. You know you cannot keep up on the march. You know your crippled leg would be a fatal liability in a shield wall, and you know, deep down, that you no longer have the rage. The well of fury from which you once drew your strength has run dry, leaving only a bitter, salty residue of pain and regret. So you stay behind. You have become one of the old men who sits by the fire, mending tools with gnarled, aching fingers. The role reversal is a bitter pill to swallow. You, who were once the subject of the stories, are now just a listener. The young warriors, full of fire and ignorant bliss, speak of their own deeds, and you see a distorted reflection of your own youth in their boasts. You want to warn them. You want to tell them about the cost, about the filth, about the slow decay that follows the fleeting glory, but you say nothing. It is a lesson they must learn for themselves. It is the only way. Your days fall into a simple, quiet rhythm. You wake, you feel the familiar aches in your joints. You eat your soft porridge because your teeth can no longer handle the hard, salted meat. You spend your days performing small, useful tasks around the settlement. You are no longer a terrifying weapon. You are just a man, a broken, scarred, and lonely man. The filth that was once your armor and your identity has become just another burden. You still don't wash, more out of habit and apathy than any ritualistic purpose, but the stench no longer feels like a source of power. It feels like what it is, the smell of neglect, the smell of a man who has given up. Your burskin, now gathered in bold in patches, is a heavy, pointless weight on your aching shoulders. It is a costume from a play that has long since ended. The historical fate of the Berserkers is a topic of much speculation. As Viking society evolved, became more organized, and eventually Christianized, there was less and less room for these uncontrollable Hygiene warrior cults. In the 11th century, laws were passed in Iceland specifically outlawing Berserkers, banishing them on pain of death. They were becoming an anachronism, a relic of a wilder, more chaotic past that the newly established kingdoms wanted to tame. They were being legislated out of existence. You are living through this transition. You see the changes. The Jar LS are building more organized armies. The old ways of feud and trade are slowly being replaced by politics and law. The wild, individualistic fury you embodied is becoming obsolete, even an embarrassment. You are a dying breed, and you know it. One evening, a young boy, braver than the rest, approaches you as you sit carving a piece of wood. He has heard the stories. He looks at you with wide, worshipful eyes. Is it true, he asks, his voice barely a whisper. Did you really bite your shield and feel no pain? You look at the boy, at his clean face and his unscarred hands, and for the first time in many years, you decide to tell a piece of the truth. You stop carving. You look at your gnarled hands, at the chipped and missing fingernails. The pain is always there. Boy, you say, your voice a rough rasp. The trick isn't to not feel it. The trick is to use it, to turn it into fire. But fire consumes. It eats the wood until there's nothing left but ash. You hold up your trembling, arthritic hand. This is the ash. The boy stares, not fully understanding. He was expecting a story of glory, that the godlike warrior. He is getting a lesson in entropy. He mumbles a thank you and scurries away, confused and a little disappointed. You are left alone with your thoughts. You have outlived your own legend. The rage is gone. The strength is gone. The fear you once inspired has faded into a kind of pity. You are no longer the monster. You are just the monster's ghost, haunting the edges of a world that has moved on without you. You pull your tattered hide around you, not for warmth or for show, but out of a lonely, ingrained habit. The fire is out. The night is cold, and there are no more battles left to fight. You lie on your sleeping platform, the familiar straw rustling beneath you. The great fire in the center of the longhouse has been banked for the night, its glow now just a faint, pulsing orange heart in the darkness. The air is thick with the sounds of sleep, the gentle breathing of your neighbors, the occasional snore, the soft sigh of someone turning in a dream. These are the sounds of a world at peace, a world you feel utterly detached from. Your body is a landscape of old pains, the dull throb in your leg, the sharp ache in your teeth, the stiff protest of your joints. They are your constant companions, the chroniclers of your life story. You close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come easily these days. Instead, your mind drifts back, sifting through the layers of grime and memory. You think of the man you were, so long ago, the man with the antler comb and the clean tunic, the man who looked forward to bath day. He feels like a stranger, a character from a story someone else told you. You try to remember what it felt like to be him, to move without pain, to live without a constant, low-level thrum of rage and fear beneath your skin. But the memory is faded, like an old tapestry left out in the sun. Then, you think of the journey, the deliberate descent into filth, the cold shock of the river you refused to enter, the weight of the uncured bearskin on your shoulders, the maddening itch of the lice you learned to accept as family, the taste of the gritty, half-cooked porridge, the suck of the mud on the endless march. Each memory is a sensory ghost, so vivid you can almost feel the dampness, taste the grit, smell the stench. You remember the red haze, the Berserkergang. That is the hardest memory to hold. It's like trying to remember a dream or a fever. It's a blur of screaming, of splintering wood, of a terrifying, ecstatic power that felt like it was flowing through you from some divine, violent source. You remember the feeling of invincibility, the complete absence of fear, And you remember the hollow, sickening crush that came after. Was it worth it? The question hangs in the smoky air of the longhouse. A question you've been asking yourself for years, and one for which you still have no answer. The sagas and poems, they will get it wrong. This is the final, quiet tyranny you've come to understand. A skald might come through the village one day. He will hear the stories about you, the embellished, heroic versions. He will weave them into a grand verse, full of high-flown language about Odin's fury and bear-like strength. He will sing of a hero who was immune to iron. Your life will be stripped of its reality. It will be cleaned up, sanitized for public consumption. The Skald's poem will not mention the incessant titching of the lice. It will not describe the taste of rancid fat or the agony of a septic wound. It will not speak of the foul stench that made children cry, or the deep, lonely ache of being a feared outcast. It will not mention the simple, pathetic misery of a toothache. The true history of your life, the gritty, smelly, uncomfortable, painful truth will be lost. It will be replaced by a myth, a clean myth, and this, you realize, is the ultimate fate of the Berserker, to have the profound filth of your existence whitewashed into a glorious, shining lie. There is a final academic controversy that you embody in this moment. Were Berserkers a real, distinct class of warriors with specific rituals and practices, or was Berserker simply a name given to any warrior who fought with exceptional, reckless fury? Were you part of a defined cult? Or were you just a man with a particular talent for rage who was given a label as you lie here? The line between who you chose to be and what you work old feels impossibly blurry. You are the paradox historians will never solve. You shift your weight, and a sharp pain lances through your hip. You let out a soft groan. The myth is for the young. The myth is for the sagas. The reality is this: a broken old warrior, lying in the dark, wrapped in a stinking hide, waiting for a sleep that is slow to come. Your legacy is not one of glory, but of a lingering, unpleasant smell, and a cautionary tale that no one will ever tell correctly. You were a monster, a hero, a weapon, but in the end, you are just a man, used up and worn out, left with nothing but the dirt and the scars. And as you finally begin to drift away, you are not sure if any of it mattered at all. And so, the story ends, or rather, it fades, like the last embers of the longhouse fire. The old warrior, the sum of all your choices, finally finds a moment of quiet in the deep, shared breath of the hall. The aches and the itches and the lonely weight of his legend all soften at the edges, their sharp points dissolving into the gentle dark. You can feel the world of the longhouse begin to recede now, the rough wool of the blanket, the scent of smoke, the distant memory of pain. They all drift away, becoming lighter, less distinct. They are replaced by the familiar weight of your own blanket, the soft hum of the fan in your room, the quiet stillness of your own night. The journey is over. You are safe. You are clean. You are home. The story was just a story, a faint echo from a time long past, a whisper to help guide you toward the shores of sleep. Let the last vestiges of that gritty world fall away. Let the tension in your shoulders release. Let your breathing slow down, becoming deeper, more regular. You are floating now, in that peaceful, weightless space between wakefulness and dreams. There are no more battles to fight, no more hardships to endure. There is only this calm, this quiet, this gentle descent into rest. The night has wrapped you in its own soft, clean blanket, and all that is left to do is to let go.